Welcome back to the channel, guys. I hope you're going well. We're here to preview Bahrain Test 3. Before we do preview Bahrain Test 3, there's a lot of things that have come to me like since the day 3 video. It's just like with these regs, everything's coming at me super quick and I'm like reacting, bouncing, learning, changing, adapting, and I'm having to like... There's a lot of stuff that I want to get through in this live stream. There is an agenda in the video description, so go check it out. Just click description and then we've got the chapters down there, which I'm going to talk to. So there will be a lot. Hello to everyone in the chat. Max Flushhout always here supporting. Robbie's here supporting as well. Luke Man is here as well supporting all the regulars that we've got and new people as well. So if you are new to the channel from the 3 days that I did, the 3-day videos that I did in testing, welcome. I do try to do a live stream to preview every up and coming event and like try to pick out what do you need to know, what do you need to look for, where are going to be the pinch points. In Barcelona, it was like the days of testing and just nailing that, having a smooth test and dancing around the weather and objectives, and I think Mercedes ticked that box really well. In Bahrain first test, I was like, watch 9 and 10 because they're firing in here with heaps of speed and no downforce. Awesome. Like, what more could you ask for? Keep an eye out for that corner and then just heaps of lockups into there. I've seen an onboard from Max where he's hammering downshifts and it's very good technique. Some of the drivers aren't though, like who jumped on board with Lando for a bit, Leclerc, not so much. And so I want to shine another lens on why I think Max might be doing that, not just for battery, and not just for turbo, but for other driving reasons as well. So yeah, hello everyone in chat. I hope you're doing well. I am going to crack on and get straight into it because like I say, it's a big one and there's so much that's come my way in the last couple of days. I just want to get my head around it. Sometimes I think I do these lives as much for me as I do for you, because sometimes you speak out loud, you realize like, you know, I'm teaching myself, I'm going through all of the information myself in this live stream, and I'm happy to share that process with you guys as well. All right, so we missed the super chat last time. It is a thing that I don't like to do because people chip in their money to support the channel and get their question answered. And so it is now an official agenda item. If you scroll all the way to the bottom, I think it's number 10 in this one is going to be missed super chats. So in case I missed any, you know, hopefully we don't do that again. Because what we won't do is make 2 mistakes. You're allowed to make mistakes. We're all human. You can't make mistake after mistake. At that point, you're just an idiot. Okay, so these are the super chats that I missed from last time. So thank you for these. This one from 0DRS down the bottom, 6 Malaysians, whatever they are. Thank you so much, 0DRS. Thanks for supporting the channel. And $4.99 from Philip King 1970. The question is, why do some people say Hamilton underperformed after considering all the facts, including minimum testing and 20 years at Mercedes? Who says Lewis Hamilton underperformed? That would be my first question. Did Lewis Hamilton underperform with 19 seasons in Formula 1, 104 wins, 7 world championships? Like, is that an underperformance? Fuck, that'd be a difficult case to make, to be able to come out and say, yeah, that's an underperforming career. You could make that case for Fernando and be like, yeah, he should be more of a multiple world champion, you know, and it was the career choices and the way it all went, and he didn't find himself at the right car at the right times. And, you know, I wouldn't necessarily even say underperformed in that case. I'd be like, just, you know, circumstance. So I don't know. That's an interesting question. I don't think he underperformed. Out of his 19 seasons, he's won 15 in terms of his teammate, and he's only been beaten 4 times. So 1 to Russell, 1 to Leclerc, 1 to Rosberg, and 1 to Button as well. I think that there might be potentially, like if I'm just counter arguing here, like why someone might consider his career an underperformance, I might say that since Abu Dhabi 21, since the ground effect era potentially, and together with age, Luke Man, you're saying here, you think he meant underperformed in 2025? But then it's got here the 20 years at Mercedes and everything. So there's more kind of context. It looks more contextual. What was I saying? Like since 21, I guess there's been a material drop off in terms of the ground effect era, and potentially age has something to do with it. And listen, if I was working with Lewis, the first thing I would do would be revisit 21. I'll be like, tell me what happened in Abu Dhabi 21. Have you, like, we need to get we need to get some kind of acceptance on that, or we need to meet somewhere in the middle on that to be able to move forward. I'm not sure he has, to be honest. He might still feel like I got ripped off and it was a scam and this and that, and I should be, that really hurts if you're going to carry that. I'd get closure on that piece and move forward from there with the clean sheet. That's all I can say. I don't consider it whatever. Where's my head at today? I don't consider the career an underperformance. I think that's disingenuous. Anyway, thank you for the super chat. We'll take super chats at the end of the live as well, just so I can run through this. And yeah, there's a Q&A section at the end on the agenda. So what I want to talk to you guys about, how are the 2026 regulations being experienced by the drivers? And why do drivers hate these cars? Let's have a look. I'll bring up some telemetry for you guys now. It'll be this one. Can you guys see that? Yep, all good. So I think one of the big reasons the guys hate the cars is because the battery's too controlling in some areas, which means, I'll come back to me for a sec. Like the car's not accelerating all of the time. Sometimes it accelerates and then it just plateaus. And that's like, as a driver, that's like, if you're not accelerating, you literally feel like you're going backwards. You feel like, what the hell? Like, where's all the power? Like, it's almost like hire karting. You ever driven a hire cart and you're on the back straight and you just go down the straight? It doesn't like pull you down the straight, and you kind of feel like, I'm just waiting now. Like, what am I doing? So I think there's that piece in there as well. As well as the whole clipping piece and any potential LICO that has to happen as well. Anyway, so I've got one of Max's laps here from like what looks like a kind of performance run, a quali run, and what looks like a race run. It's really interesting. You can see like if I just look at the speed trace, that's probably the most insightful piece for me. The clipping and that's exactly what I'm talking about. You see this speed here, just halfway down the straight for Max is 307 in blue. And then he finishes that straight 306. So it's done half the straight with the car not doing anything. Whereas in the performance run, you know, it continues to climb and push into the 330s. And then there's a bit of clipping at the end as well. And so I think the biggest constraint where the battery's really been switched off and not doing that much at all is up the hill through turn 12. And Fernando was talking about this, this particular part of the track, saying like it used to be that you'd set your car up for it to be on the edge through here, and now it's just like, what are we doing through here? Now that corner doesn't, I mean, it's just a flat out right-hander in any case, but it would be nice for the car to climb as well. You see there's kind of peaks like in white where it peaks and then blue where it plateaus, and that's what the drivers are experiencing out there and why it's frustrating. One thing I notice in this telemetry, if I just zoom in and look at turn 1, on both the race run and the quali run, there's not that much lift and coast. If any, there's no lift and coast happening. And this is a story that has evolved since I put out that 2026 regulations video in December of last year. It was like, okay, there's going to be, like, the story has evolved a lot. So I'll just come back and try to explain like how I've evolved this story. We started with, okay, this is going to be awesome. Super quick cars, tearing down the straight, long braking zones, difficulty stopping the car, no downforce when you get there, awesome. And then we're like, oh, hang on, there's going to be a lot of lift and coast. We've got to charge these batteries back up. So what's going to happen is they're going to lift and cruise down. MGUK is going to recharge the battery, and then the braking zone will just be very short, very compressed at the end of that whole lift and coast deceleration zone. Now on the telemetry, you don't see any lift and coast, and what they're doing instead is doing the clipping method. So if you didn't come to the last live stream, you've got clipping to charge the battery and you've got lift and coast to charge the battery. And the reason being, as soon as you lift off the throttle, the active aero switches off. So that's like a mark against the lift and coast method, isn't it? Like, you'd rather keep your foot flat, keep the active aero open, and then trade the fuel for battery. Essentially, the car's like the fuel's being exchanged, the fuel energy is being exchanged for battery energy with the clipping piece. And so that's those 3 steps where I thought we were going to have attacking braking zones. Then I thought, well, there's going to be a bit of lift and coast happening. Now it's like the active aero gets disengaged the moment you lift off the throttle. The lift and coast kind of takes a bit of a hit with that. And so now it's like it's a lot of it is going to be the clipping piece. And so that's how I've evolved this story. And that's one of the reasons why I think the drivers are kind of annoyed with it as well. And just the fact that the cars don't pull all the way down the straight, but we haven't got the battery and the power to do it. So I wanted to show you guys Max's driving technique as well, and spend a little bit of time on that and just bring it up to you guys. He's downshifting very aggressively. You may have heard that and seen that from some of the media journalists. They were saying Max is going down an extra gear. And there are a few, I think one of the big reasons, of course, is to charge the MGUK, yes, and then to keep the turbo spun and more active. We spoke about the starts last live stream, that the revs are constant to help that turbo kind of spin up and compress and then bang fire that. So that's the battery, the downshifts for the battery, the downshifts for the turbo. But personally, if I just looked at this from a pure driving piece, the downshifts are so aggressive because there's no braking capacity. And that's what I just spoke about at the phase one. We've got quick speeds and then no downforce or braking when you get there. So you guys know from last year when I spoke on the channel, and I'm like, when you haven't got braking capacity from the aerodynamics and the brake pedal and the actual brakes and the tire grip, what's your next best friend? It's the engine braking. It's like you're a truck going downhill. You don't want to use the brakes that much. Like you're out of capacity. You'd rather pull back hard with the gears. And that's what I promote to all my drivers is like when it's wet or it's slippery or it's Monza and it's low downforce and it's whatever it is, cold tires, or you're driving in a difficult situation where there's not that braking grip and braking capacity, engine braking is your friend, mate. Wind that thing up and pull back nice and hard with the gears. So I think that's a big piece as well, which is not being spoken about. Max is essentially saying, all right, we don't have braking capacity. That's fine. I'll make up for that with have this in terms of engine braking, like bang, bang, bang. So have a listen to it now. Oh, the other thing I wanted to call out was have a listen for that little short shift on the exit of turn 11 as well. We spoke about this on the channel as well. And I was like, yeah, pull down your gears nice and quick, but then do that plug or short shift because to get back in the gear that you want to drive out in. And crucially, Max does that in the increasing radius corner, which is excellent. It's very good technique because I'm just looking at my track map here. If I can find it, the increasing radius corner is the one you want the traction in, right? We spoke about that in Barcelona. And so Barcelona was an opportunity for us to see traction, and Bahrain is an opportunity for us to see braking. And so we're getting different characteristics, and I'm still looking out for different pieces as well. I'm still looking out for direction change, curbs, following, these things we haven't yet got a bit of a read on. But what Max is doing here in this one, a lot of heavy downshifting coming into, come on, Martin, clean your whiteboard, mate. What's going on here? Let's get rid of all this. Okay, so a lot of heavy downshifting here. And then quickly pulls the upshift just before on the exit. I want you to listen out for that as well when I roll you the tape now. All right, give me a sec. Listen here. Not sure if you guys managed to hear that last upshift there, and go back and check it out because I don't want to spend too much time on it, but it is heavy engine braking and it is heavy downshifting. And in that last one, turn 11, all of a sudden just that gear comes in, and I spoke about that on the channel as well, the plug shift. Yeah, that's the one, Max. Good job. It'll bring up there it is. Exactly. So like I'm keeping an eye out for this sort of stuff. These are sim techniques, guys. Like this is, yeah, Max is all over this. Why some of the other drivers aren't doing the heavy downshifting and as well as the plug shifting, I'm not sure. I'm really not sure. Potentially they don't need it. The turbo, different engines, right? Like Lando with the Merc and Leclerc with the Ferrari. I don't know. Different engines. What are you guys saying? Look around lower lap time. I tried your tips on 9 and 10 and it works like a charm. Save me seconds. Is that the line? Presumably you're talking about the line, like going around 9 nicely. So you fire in nice and straight into 10. I think that's one. Yeah, that poor gearbox. Yeah. Yeah. So, what was I saying? Yeah. You guys get the point. So yeah, I think, yeah, the different engines. I'm not sure why Lando and Charles aren't doing it. Maybe they'll try it. I think it's just Max's comfort. Like he doesn't want to squeeze the brakes too much. It's got to be done with the gears, mate. And so That's very important. Let's talk about some driver mentality in this section as well. And then we're going to spend a bit of time on this as well, because again, a lot of information and news has come my way since the last couple of videos that I put out. Now, I've been listening to the drivers as they speak after their run, and I'm like, what are they saying? What are they thinking? What are they feeling? Analyzing every single word and the body language. The only thing you can analyze is the car and the body language from the driver. And so I look at both and try to glean into it. Like I spoke about this before, and I'm like, it's okay to have a crack at the regs. Like, vent your frustration and have a crack at the regs. Yeah, the regs, they're garbage and it's all battery and it's all management and whatever. But what I'm looking for from a mindset point of view, crucially, is like you then finish by saying, but it's the same for everyone and we're going to chip away at it and I'm motivated for the challenge. Or potentially saying, it's different, it's interesting, and I'm looking forward to learn. Like, there's a beauty in the struggle of the problem solve as well. There has to be that process piece in the criticism of the regulations, because if it's just straight criticism, I'm like, well, you're not up for the challenge of the regs. Like, you've got to be, like I said, there's a beauty in the struggle, and the process is very important, and you've got to love the process more than you love the outcome. If you're not interested in the process, the problem solving piece, how are you gonna get up in the morning? Like, it's very important that I hear that when I hear a driver hammer the regs. And so I think Max did that as well. Where's that picture from Max? I'll bring it up. Here he is. Let's have a look what he says. So Max says, I'll read it out for you guys. As a driver, the feeling is not very Formula One like. It feels a bit like Formula E on steroids, but the rules are the same for everyone. That line there is very important. The rules are the same for everyone, and Max continues, so you have to deal with that. And that's also not my problem, because I'm all for that. Equal chances, I don't mind that. And that's, again, like I say, it's a very important piece that he finishes on that and says, you know what, like, this is what we've got. Like, complaining is not helpful. It's not going to do anything. So I liked that from Max. And there was also a Leclerc clip that I wanted to share with you guys. Bear with me, I'll bring it up.
I cannot lie either. It's not the most enjoyable car I've driven. It's very different. I take very positively the challenge that I have as a driver to adapt to those completely new cars, but to drive in itself. You
hear that, guys? I take very positively the challenge that is presented to adapt to these new cars. Listen to that again. That's quality from Charles.
Not lie either. It's not the most enjoyable car I've driven. It's very different. I take very positively the challenge that I have as a driver to adapt to those completely new cars, but to drive in itself is not the most exciting car to drive.
So that's both of those examples, Charles and Max. You can't criticize. But when someone's like, this is rubbish, I'm not interested, then it's like, bro, like, you just can't, you're not, you're born to fail. You're destined to fail if you have that mindset. You've got to be like, all right, this is what it is. It will, but like, where are the opportunities? And that's what this whole channel is all about. Where are the opportunities for lap time? And so we try to dig those out together, whether it's plug shifting or leveraging engine braking or difference in line into 9 and 10 or setup or whatever. It's like, it doesn't matter what you've got. You got to figure it out. What are you guys saying in the chat? Luke, man. But the journalist only said doesn't feel like F1 in the headlines. Okay, the journalist, man. I don't know to which you're referring to, but sometimes the journalist. Yeah, I'm going to move on if there's nothing in that. Yeah, Max, you're right. There is opportunity if you look for it, 100%. You've got to be like, you're panning for gold out there. And so, yeah. Okay, the next piece on the agenda was Liam Lawson. He's come out and given a podcast, and whilst I didn't listen to all of it, it gave me a little bit of an insight into some of the struggles that he's been having with the Red Bull, where he's at now in terms of confidence. Yeah, I mean, this is as close as I ever get to talking to an F1 driver. And so I'm always kind of like, well, what did happen there? I'll start by saying I felt really bad for Liam in the first 2 races at Red Bull. I feel like he just got in and then out, and like, you can't, how do you get your feet underneath the table in a car that you're not comfortable with, you didn't test with, you've been thrown in? China's a very technical circuit in terms of long corners, double apex, increasing radius, like hairpin, like it's got a lot of technical corners, China, a lot of long corners as well. And I just feel like, as I always kind of say, the drivers have had no time, but he also had no help as well. And by help, I don't mean thousands of engineers, performance engineers, mechanical engineers, strategy engineers, aero engineers. What I don't mean those guys, because they don't fall under the category of help, in my opinion, in terms of like personal help, personal team, physical, mental, technical, tactical, those 4 key people that are super close to you, that when things get tough, they're the ones that are going to dig you out of trouble. They're the ones that on the ride home in the car and, you know, at dinner and, you know, when you're walking through, they're the ones, the elevator conversations, they're the ones that are going to help you out. So I don't think he had, who did he have? Who was the physical, mental, tactical and technical at that time? I'm not sure. And that's why I kind of feel like same as Franco. I've had Franco, Antonelli, some of these guys get thrown into deep positions, and like, who have they ticked all those 4 boxes? I'm really big on that. Now, this one was interesting for me because on the red flags, I got asked this exact question by Matty, and he was like, if you're working with Liam, like, where do you start and what do you do? Let's have a listen to that now.
Well, if you were going to get an F1 driver, let's say Liam Lawson called you up and he was like, help me now. What would you do with him?
It's so good. You're halfway there, honestly, when you do that. Like, you pick up the phone to someone and say, help me. You're literally halfway there. Like, that's the first step, right?
The first step in solving problem is admitting that there is a problem.
That's it. Like, you're almost almost halfway there. It's well, firstly, I'd want to get so let's say with Liam, I'd want to get the context and be like, what happened at Red Bull? Like, give me the story. Like, fill me in. What was the struggles? Like, give me the full story season today. Have you worked with coaches before? I need context. I've got a lot of intersecting philosophies thereafter, which I can pull on, which I think after he tells me that story, then I can say, all right, we'll look at this. So it could be wet, could be lines, could be interpreting telemetry, could be driving with downforce, could be the 7 technical corners. Like, it could be one of those, how to use the steering wheel. It could be just one of those things, driver tools, something in there that's on the technical side, on the lap time side, if that's where we're looking to improve. So I'd start there. So there you go. That's what I said, and I stand by that. I take like a doctor's approach to it. Like, if you go to the doctor and you're like, I got a sore ankle. Okay, what happened? When did it start? Does it hurt here? In which situations does it hurt? Have you tried ice? Like, where are we at? You know what I mean? You just can't and unfortunately I get that question a lot, which is like, no, if you're working with Franco, what would you tell him to make him go quicker? And I'm like, it doesn't work like that. I got to make an assessment and profile of the driver. So let's have a listen to a couple of clips I just dug out and recorded super quickly from that podcast. I think a link to it is in the description. If it's not, I'll whack it in there afterwards. But here was the first, there's a few clips in here that I want to kind of, it gives me a bit of an insight, and I'm starting to think. If you notice the bell ding when I said it could be wet, it could be lines, it could be downforce, and then bang, the thing went off. Have a listen to this, because I think that was a theme in there as well. Let's have a listen.
The hardest part about the Red Bull car was just you just didn't have enough time.
That's what I'll always, for me, it's always going to be, I didn't have enough time to get my head around it. So it's not that like, I think everybody just maybe thinks that it's got so much front and that it's undrivable because it's got so much front. And it's actually not like that, because the balance through the corner wasn't very good where we started last year, but it's not just too much front. It's very sensitive for sure, when you initially turn in, but it's just the feeling that you're trying to find, like trying to turn one, for example. It's just such a high speed that if you're not 100% confident when you're doing it, it's not like half a tenth or it's half a second. You lose so much lap time if you're not. So you need to be sort of that level of comfort, being comfortable. I turn and I feel something that exactly, and it's like, nah, it's not there.
And that moment,
it's gone. And it's half a second was just straight away into turn one.
Okay, cool. So I hear that, and a couple of topics come to mind. The confidence piece is screaming out loud. In the high speed, in particular, so when downforce is significantly active, in the high speed, downforce, confidence, and aero balance, crucially. So you guys know, have you guys seen my famous drawing of aero balance? Come on, let me bring you guys over to the whiteboard. Aero balance, understanding your car's aero balance is a big piece. So it's this one here. And I've been drawing and talking about it with regards to the 26 cars. But like how it seems to me is like, again, Martin, clean your whiteboard, mate. What are you doing? So yeah, let's do that one. So aero balance. So speed is across, like speed is increasing across that way, and anything here is understeer and anything here is oversteer. So it's important you understand what's going on. So like in 25, the Red Bull, like it was slow speed understeer. But then in Liam's case, what it sounds like is when the speed and downforce built, we ended up in this territory, this uncomfortable territory of oversteer. You'll notice he doesn't like say there that it's like everyone says it's too much front or anything like that. It's more like the rotation piece in that high speed. So think about like a corner like Stowe or Copse are probably good examples where it's just you're throwing the car at the corner, and that's where he feels that slide and that discomfort. His steering rate is a huge piece, and then understanding this balance is another big piece. And then the tight line is also a big piece because it means you steer less as well. I might also add that it's not like a lot of the 25 cars, the aero balance was on the nose. I mean, have a look at the McLaren. This is Lando through turn one, turns in, oversteer, bang. And so Lando's struggling with the exact same thing. There was more high speed instability in this McLaren, which I captured. This is 2025, by the way. And so like the question is like, you always got to look at it like, what's the worst that can happen? There's a decent runoff at turn one, and Lando corrected that, but he anticipated for that. And this gets onto a couple of other topics with Liam. Is it like, is he reacting to whatever comes, or is he knowing what he's going to get and expect? That's huge, because when you know this, when you know that in the high speed, if you turn in from out wide into it, like you pitch the car in, you expect oversteer, that's helpful. Like, and again, that's the time piece with Liam, like, because then you can anticipate for it. And what you do is turn into the corner, but then you just either wait or turn less or drive tighter lines, or you can wind your front wing back a little bit or do whatever, like, because you're aware of this situation. So there's a few pieces that, and then, yeah, so for me, just off that first video, it's the confidence piece, the downforce piece, the aero balance piece, the tight line in long corners, and the steering rate piece. It's going to be through there. So everything I mentioned before in terms of could be wet, could be 7 technical corners, or could be understanding telemetry or whatever it is, like it's, yeah. We've got a better picture now than what I had in the Red Flags podcast. Have a look at this. He's not lying when he says half a second. This is them in 25, Max in white and Lawson in blue. And if we look at the delta through turn one, like even over the line, he's losing probably the exit out of 16. He's already down 600ths by the time they go into turn one. But anyway, as turn one unfolds, and I'll just zoom in on this piece for you guys. As turn one unfolds, you see Max's speed in white is much higher than Liam's in blue, and it does materialize to be 0.6 by the time they've gone through 1 and 2. That's very strange for me. It's very strange to have that level of time loss through turn one. I get it because it's a long corner, so that's possible, but like, he's having to, what's he doing? He's braking earlier and having to get out of the throttle earlier as well. Yeah, in blue. So he gets out of the throttle earlier, and Max just, with that downforce, flies in through there. And it's like, it's just, yeah. I mean, you guys know me, right? I always come back to line and steering wheel, but in this particular case, it's probably a lack of understanding about aero balance, steering wheel, tight lines, what the car's capable of, what to expect in the hands of Lando. And in the very worst case, let's say you pitch it in and it steps out. All right, quick correct and away you go kind of thing. Like exactly what Lando did in that video before. Everything's easier said than done, but through that thinking and discussion, maybe you get somewhere. And like, if he was to go back to that track today with the knowledge he had now, potentially it would be a little bit Do you know what I mean? He would know what to expect and maybe how to resolve for it as well. And that's all it's really about, guys. Digging yourself in a problem, that's normal. Lando had that exact same thing. Look, falling into trouble is fine. The whole thing is about what's your solution? Like, what are you going to do about it? You're going to pull front wing out. You're going to drive a tighter line. Are you going to turn less? Are you going to turn later? You're going to initiate the turn earlier. You're going to prepare your tires better. But like, what are you going to do about it? So the whole thing is like, you're a problem solver out there. You've got to be that. And I guess I got that mentality from tennis as well, because sometimes like I used to watch Roger and Rafa and Novak, and they just got themselves into trouble in these situations where they just didn't know what was going on. And you see them working it out on the fly, like, I'll try this, I'll try come in, I'll try a chip, I'll try serve out wide, I'll try hit to his backhand or forward. You've got to try these things. But in F1, you might not have that time, and that's another argument. What else have we got? So, this is really interesting. The guy interviewing, I couldn't find his name. It's not on his podcast. It's not on his video description. If any of you guys know his name, whack it in the chat so I can refer to him. He helps him out. Have a listen to this. He's like, well, it's about predicting and anticipating and downforce. And I'm like, mate, this guy knows his stuff. Let's have a listen to the second clip.
Well, it's expectation, right? Like, you've got to have a certain level of predictability of knowing what you do X, what it equals,
you know it's coming.
Y.
Yeah, you got it exactly.
But it's one of the things. So to explain to people that don't know about downforce, like, so F1 is the car with the
mate. The fact that he even mentioned that word, like, because here's the thing. Liam could be talking about, I'm not sure he knows in particular China turn 1. You know, there are plenty of other really tight turn 1s or chicanes, for example, where downforce is not really like, trying to think of an example. One will come to me where the first corner is kind of like a bit of a hairpin, and like where they wouldn't fall in the downforce piece, like Austin, for example. Austin turn 1, it's like you're not really leveraging that principle the same way you are China turn 1. So the fact that he's even mentioned that is impressive.
Exactly.
But it's one of the things. Yeah. So to explain to people that don't know about downforce, like, so F1 is the car with the most downforce. Like, it's basically a spaceship that flies the opposite way.
So the only point of that clip that I wanted to mention is he's like, it's about predictability and anticipation and downforce. And I'm like, bang, bang, bang. These are the three things that I just mentioned a while ago. Like, they're the areas that you just need to grasp a little bit better. And Liam understands these. There's no question about it. But it's like, how can I explain this? It's like understanding it to a level that you can leverage it and manipulate it and control it and tweak it and tailor it to your needs. You know what I mean? It's like he understands that a hammer is used to put a nail in a piece of wood. But what if the wood is a particular shape and the nail is a particular shape, and you've got to use that hammer in a way that you haven't used it before? You know what I mean? Where now it's the principles are there, but now it's like, it's application, which is a different piece. And so like, that's all I'd say to Liam is like, you've got to be profound in your understanding, very deep in your understanding. Liam then goes on to talk about wind. And personally for me, this is like a gripe of mine when it comes to mindset. And it's like, across a 24 race season, you would only be allowed to blame wind once in my book. So that one doesn't wash for me that well. And the second thing is, there are always things you can do about the wind, whether it's drive a tighter line or predict it or anticipate it. And I'm going to share with you some examples of drivers doing that, like George Russell in Canada, keeping an eye on the dash. There's always something you can do. And it's that mentality from Lando that I don't like as well, which is like the whole luck piece and unlucky piece. It's like, yeah, you got this situation, but what did you do about it? How did you mitigate for that? How do you reduce your exposure to wind? How do you drive in a way that you can achieve the same lap time and reduce your exposure to the wind so that when it comes windy, you're not as affected or as exposed? That's like, again, guys, this is deep thinking now. Let's have a listen to Liam on that.
And you're just fighting that force that's pushing you the other way and trusting that this car and the wind, for example, if you have a tailwind, you just get a gust of tailwind, you're gone. Like it's like you just get on. Like, dude, the amount of times we come in after qualifying and I'm like, yeah, I've lost a car or something like this, and made a mistake or something, and yeah, gust of wind, mate. Sorry. Cheers. What are you meant to do about that? You just, and everybody has it at some point. It's just, you just get unlucky. But
well, there's his question. He goes, what are you meant to do about that? And my response would be, you've got to reduce your exposure to wind. You're either heavily exposed to the wind through the line you take, the steering you use, and how you frame and approach the corner, or you're less exposed to the wind. In the case of the tight line with Charles Leclerc, that's a perfect example, which I'm going to share with you right now. So we spoke about this. This was a very windy session, guys, and I think Charles was the only one to improve in Hungary 2025 in that final run. Everyone else went slower. The thing was, in this particular corner, Charles was able to drive the tight line and go faster. He was less exposed to the elements when they came, and therefore they didn't affect him so much. Oscar was not. And that's the difference between Oscar and Charles in this case. With the way Oscar's turning in, he's got a lot more lock because, of course, he's coming out from slightly wider. This left front, he's asking more from it. It's like got more chips on the table. And if it's wind or it's front tire temperature or a track bump or anything, really a bit of water or oil or something to upset this, then you lose. And what happened was Oscar had to straighten the steering wheel in the middle of the final corner. Charles Leclerc did not because of that offset line. And again, you might be a lot of people that hear this like, what are you talking about? Line, it's not that. Like, it's just, they're just taking different lines. No, the implication of this is huge. The steering wheel condition that Charles took through this corner on the initial part compared to what Oscar took through this corner, half a car width, is night and day because the car is very sensitive to the steering wheel. As you guys know, on this channel, the steering wheel doesn't tell the car which direction to go on this channel. It's a weight management tool. And that's huge, massive difference in terms of what the car's capacity and capability is to corner. And so I love this from Charles. As soon as this happened, I was like, good on you, Charles, man. Good, that's good technique, bro. Like, I'm proud of you. And I love to see good technique on this channel, whether it's Max driving short corners in the wet, Charles driving tight lines here, Lando, the way he managed Melbourne 25 with all the different stuff, someone that does an amazing safety car restart or whatever it is. Like, I just applaud good technique on this channel. So this is one way Liam could reduce exposure to risk. Would we play a tight line into China turn 1? The other piece I wanted to show you was, well, while we're on the McLaren, have a listen to how those boys reacted after the session.
Surprisingly not that annoyed, just because I'm a bit dumbfounded at what happened in Q3. The conditions changed a lot, and yeah, my first lap of Q3 I wasn't that surprised that it was not good enough. Well, I mean, I was surprised that it was good enough at that point, but I felt like there was a lot to improve on it because yeah, just some corners were pretty out of control. But then the second lap I tried to peg things back a bit and it felt much more under control, but it was just slower. So some things to analyze there, because I think clearly both of us struggled in Q3. So yeah, it's a bit of a surprise.
So that's quite interesting. That's the image that I just showed you before. Oscar, where he blew pole in Hungary because of that tight line. So he was like a little bit dumbfounded, he said, and confused and not sure why. I'm telling you, if he had played a tighter line into that corner, he would be on pole. He would have won that race. The strategy, the whole thing that fell apart for him in Hungary was like, it came back to line. Let's have a listen to Lando.
I don't know why we struggled so much. The wind changed into Q3 and we went like 6 tenths slower, so a little bit weird. We seem to have a much bigger hit than than everyone else. So yeah, I don't know why. I don't know if we're more sensitive to the wind than others in the car or something. But yeah, I mean, we both made a lot of mistakes in Q3 run 1. We both thought we did a much better Q3 run 2 lap, but we were still just slow. So for some reason, yeah, the wind changed and that made our car just too difficult to drive.
Yeah, I think it's always...
For some reason, the wind changed and that made our car too difficult to drive. And my mindset is just chalk and cheese to that. It's like, it didn't make your car difficult to drive. You couldn't find a solution to it. That's a very different mindset when you think, well, how could I, there's it's a classic mindset of like open mind, closed mind, which is like, okay, the wind is there and it has an impact. Sure. How can it not have an impact? Like just do that as a mental exercise. Like how can you drive in a way or set up your car in a way that you minimize the impact of that wind? That's the question that you should be able to spend an hour or two on answering if you're a professional Formula One driver. Would be like, where do I start? Like, and through that lens of how could I, opens up the possibility for solution. Otherwise, you'll always be coming out and saying, yeah, it was a little bit windy and I got done. George Russell in Canada, another good example of this. You remember he had that massive tailwind down the back straight and he was monitoring his dash in real time. And he's like, hang on, I normally come down this back straight at like 330. Why am I coming down at 334 now? There must be a big tailwind. What I'm going to do is I'll brake a little bit earlier and I'll make sure I make this final corner as like a conservative kind of risk assessed kind of decision down the back straight in real time on his final Q3 lap to take pole. There's a way that you can manage the wind. Like there's an example of that. And again, guys, this is details here. This is what's separating these drivers out there at the moment is like, how good are you really? You know what I mean? When things are, the world's not going to be perfect. Sometimes a kangaroo is going to jump out on the track and you just got to deal with it. Sometimes the lights are going to go orange in front of you and you don't expect that. But what do you do? Like, do you know what I mean? You just got to deal with it. And sometimes in Melbourne, you'll be on the hard tire or medium tire and it'll start to rain where you are. But how can you keep things under control? Like still get the win. Like that's why Lando's Melbourne was so impressive. Have a listen to this. This was George's pole lap in Canada, which I explained at the time. Pretty much said that it was a headwind into the hairpin, which he was able to leverage and take advantage of. That means that you got more downforce when you're traveling through to the hairpin. You can brake later, deeper, harder. And then he was monitoring, and this is the crucial part for me, he was monitoring his top speed down, and he said that his top speed was 1.5 kilometers more than usual down the back straight due to that wind coming in this direction. And he said he had to brake a little bit earlier into turn 13. So look, this is very technically excellent from George as well. Not only is he driving the car, but he's been able to monitor the top speed live in real time to gauge how much wind he thinks is coming and how strong it is at that point in time. Most of the drivers will check the wind speed and direction just before the session and say, oh, okay, it's changed direction this session or it's strong this session. Now, George is going one step further. He's identified that it's changed direction already, but now he's monitoring it in real time with his top speed. That's pretty impressive. So he did do a mega hairpin and a conservative, but rightly conservative final corner. Remember, this is where Lando had that oversteer moment on his first run in Q3. So that was very astute of George to be able to know that and manage for it in real time. Perfect. So that's another example that you could give to Liam, which is like, there are ways. And this is a difference in, there's a difference in the 9 and 10 out of 10s and the 7 out of 10 F1 drivers. Okay, now there is one other piece from this podcast which I want to give you guys an insight on. It's about being present or being subconscious in the cockpit. This is really interesting because there's one school of thought which is like, you've got to get into your flow state. You've got to be doing it all such that you're not even thinking about it. It just happens and it's autopilot and it's an instinct thing. And that all sounds beautiful. However, what I would say is that's right at the top, like that experience is at the upper echelons of like, to get to that level, you've got to have a lot of basics under control. To get to that experience and that level, you've got to be like, you're so good that you're driving the car 2 or 3 corners ahead and you're driving your nice lines, you're anticipating for wind, you're anticipating for grip, you're changing brake balance on the fly, everything's bang, 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 you've got the diff monitored, you're calling your pit stop, you're radioing in, you're monitoring your battery, you're defending from the car behind. You got all that under control and now you're just autopilot. Personally, that's firstly a very rare position to be in with that whole subconscious piece. Secondly, I would argue that what am I trying to say here? I would argue that driving with purpose is more important than being subconscious or flow state. Because when you're driving out there, and Liam refers to this in the pod, he's like, someone asked me, like, what line do I take in this particular corner? And Liam's like, I don't know. Or I had the car feel through this particular corner, and he's like, I can't remember. And that's not good either, because now you're not driving with purpose. And that's critical for me, because driving with purpose, like if we go back to the tight line in Hungary, this one, driving with Leclerc is driving with purpose, and Oscar is driving on like whatever, like the limit that he knows. Leclerc is driving with purpose, saying, hang on a minute, this is a direction change into a long corner of constant radius at the end of the lap across a significant track width where downforce is not significant. What I want to do here is drive a tighter line so that I can just put less load on the outside front and get into this corner a little bit earlier and make the whole experience more comfortable and minimize my risk to any wind or tire overheating on the fronts towards the end. This is driving with purpose. Like, these are the things, there are objectives that Charles wants to achieve when he takes this final corner. And it would be the same in like a chicane, for example. What I'm trying to do here is brake, unload the inside front, make compliant contact with that curb, and then I want to straighten the steering wheel, short shift, so I've got good traction on it. You know, you want to, like, you're doing these things because you want, like the same way we saw Max with those downshifts. This is a guy driving with a purpose. He's trying to achieve a certain goal. This is not some guy on autopilot in some kind of subconscious fantasy land. The Max is like, hang on, I want to achieve a bunch of things, and that's the reason why I'm doing this. And so that's my challenge and kind of constructive feedback to Liam on the whole present subconscious piece. Let's have a listen to what he has to say.
So much of it has to be, what's crazy is how much of it's actually subconscious, you know, like the driving part of it, like anything, like moto, like other sports, you don't think about really I don't think you're really thinking about what you're doing.
When was the first time that occurred to you?
That's been there since I was a kid. That's
so always, you knew that as a kid?
Yeah. Well, I know, because you don't know it. You don't think about it. That's the thing. It's like,
yeah, so when did you start thinking about that?
Did you hear that question from the reporter? He goes, so Liam's like, you don't think about it. That's the thing. And then the guys, what's his name? You got to give me his name. He's like, so when did you start thinking about it? Expecting like at one point you're going to snap and like do what I've been saying before, which is like drive with purpose. Listen out for that piece, because it's not, the camera doesn't cut back to him, but he goes, so when did you start to think about it? Here.
Since I was a kid. That's
so always, you knew that as a kid?
Yeah. Well, I know, because you don't know it. You don't think about it. That's the thing. It's like,
yeah, so when did you start thinking about it?
When people ask me, what are you doing here? And I'm like, I don't really know what I'm doing. You know, like ask you what technique or what, you know, line or what, where you're braking here or something like this as a kid. And I was just like, dude, I have no idea. Just driving. And that is, if you can keep as much of that, and then the stuff you focus on is the real important details. You know, specific styles.
I'll just stop Liam there, because he's like, well, the driving part is not important. The stuff you want to focus on is, and he'll go on to say the switches and the engineer and the strategy and the tire management and whatever, and the attack and the defense and stuff. But actually, Liam, the important thing is the driving technique. It's the lap time. It's your inputs and rates of input and line and steering wheel and pressure and downshifts in the case of Max. That is the important piece. Actually, all the other stuff is, you know, supplementary to that. That's the only part I would add there.
Different corners, different curbs you're using. Maybe try this white line, or this curb. Try that.
So like systematic in preparation, instinctual in execution, essentially.
Pretty much, yeah, exactly. You kind of go into a session with a couple of things. I'm going to try this, try that. And then in F1, it's the amount of communication. It's the amount of switch changes that calling. That's really what you're thinking about. If they're tell you to do a switch change, you're thinking about that. You're thinking about what tire condition you're in a qualifying session, your outlap, trying to build the tires up to perfect sort of condition to start your lap, make sure they're in the right window, make sure your gap's big enough to the car ahead, you don't get any turbulent air. That's all the stuff you're like thinking about. And then when you're driving, it's just subconscious or subconscious.
I learned pretty early on that I was obsessed with riding because that's when the voice in my head stopped.
Yeah.
As kind of like crazy as that
The fact
sounds.
you're aware of that is impressive. Cause
Spent my whole life thinking about that concept.
That's interesting. He's dedicated time to understanding that state.
So I knew that that was a thing, but that didn't translate to racing. I started thinking, I would think about everything that I did. But the reality is that you don't think when you drive.
The only thing I've noticed in myself is, like, if I crash, for example, it's you go from being at that 100% subconscious level to boom, out of it. You're in the wall
again.
And I'm like, you're sitting there, you feel your heart rate, you listen to yourself breathing, like, and I didn't realize that I had no idea that I was at this level of intensity 5 seconds ago. I had no idea until I got snapped out of it forcefully almost. And then
So when I hear this, Liam's talking about like, he's just had a crash, he's just had an accident, and the world just stops and everything just goes quiet. And his heart rate goes boom, 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 boom. And he's breathing and the adrenaline. And he's like, was I really in that state 5 seconds ago? And as soon as I heard this, my counter argument was like, hang on, you just had a crash. Your heart rate would have fucking done one of these, bang. And you're now more present. Because remember, he was subconscious in the driving phase. You're now present in this state where your heart rate is through the roof. So I can just draw it for you. Liam might be driving around, heart rate over here, has the crash, bang. And then this is his now present region and captures himself here. And he's thinking, hang on, was I here, there? And the reality was that you're not. And because he's not aware of this state, then that therein lies the problem.
I'm like aware of like, holy smoke, like what was I just doing? What was I just doing? And the adrenaline, everything is like, you feel it, but you're not aware of it because when you're in it, I don't know, you're just not aware of it. But that's the only time I've experienced being snapped out of it and realizing that sort of space that you're in. It's so different of what you're feeling. And it's crazy how I can't believe how high my heart rate is sometimes when maybe part of it's because I've just had a massive crash.
Yeah.
But like,
but it would have been up there beforehand.
And it's also the mental switch of like, whoa, like
it's almost back to reality.
It is honestly
very interesting because Liam actually works it out in the end and says, maybe part of that, me feeling that adrenaline after the crash is because my heart rate has just spiked. And therein lies the whole point of like coaching is like you're having a conversation with someone and grinding through it and having those moments where you're like, oh, I didn't realize that was like that. Do you know what I mean? For once, you're finally sitting down and seeing things from the outside. So in that podcast, just then in that clip I just showed you, Liam had one preconception or pre-idea, like, is that a word? Preconception. Liam had one preconceived idea that he was in this crazy high heart rate, adrenaline pumping state while he was driving. But then just at the end, he works out, maybe it's because I just had a crash and I've snapped back to reality in that crash state as opposed to that present state that I feel like why I'm trying to link. He just had that moment on the pod. Imagine if he was to sit down with a driver coach and mentor or someone from the mindset side or someone on the physical side or technical side and have these mind stimulating conversations. Imagine how much ground you would cover about your driving technique. It would be priceless. And that's why I've always said, one of the biggest opportunities right now is to work with someone, not because that person is a particular expert or whatever in the field, but because the act of conversing and again, the process, moving through the mud and undigging and thinking about this in different ways is valuable in and of itself. Now, the other thing I would say just to wrap up on this Liam Lawson podcast would be like, when you're in that subconscious mode, it's very difficult to anticipate because you're so present, you're not thinking like from a logical point of view, hang on a minute. if I've got high downforce and I'm pitching this car in with high speed and the steering wheel condition is like this and the wind is blowing this way, I would expect this car to snap on the entry. Therefore, I'm going to anticipate for that and then, you know, preset or pre-angle my steering wheel or prepare for that eventuality. So if the back does step out, I catch it like almost straight away such that it doesn't even look like a slide, right? That's very hard to do when you're subconscious, Liam. That's better done when you're driving with purpose and you're more present about the situation. So just the last clip, I'll show you that.
When you're in a normal car and you lose the car or you have a snap or something like, you know, you lose traction, it's quite often you can catch the car or something like that, you know. But in F1, when you lose the car and you hit that side on, it's gone. So you have no chance, really. It's like you could have the fastest hands ever, but if you get to a certain angle and you're gone too far in a high-speed corner, it doesn't matter how good you are at sort of catching the car. The load's gone. You actually have nothing left. So
I'll just stop Liam there because I agree. There's no way you're going to react in time. And that's the thing. You're not meant to react in time. What you're meant to do is anticipate before that event happens. Have you ever seen a tennis player react to a serve? They do the split step and they're reading the toss. They're looking at the body language and they're moving one direction that they think the serve is going to go, whether it's going to go T serve or wide serve, before the serve. It's not a reaction. It's an anticipation. Like I read that and it looks like they're reacting. And therein lies the whole piece with Liam is like, I agree. There's no way you're going to react. If you're purely reacting, us humans don't have the capacity to react at anything below kind of 0.2 of a second. But what you can do is anticipate, and that gets you lower.
When you lose the car and you hit that side on, it's gone. So you have no chance, really. It's like you could have the fastest hands ever, but if you get to a certain angle and you're gone too far in a high-speed corner, it doesn't matter how good you are at sort of catching the car. The load's gone. You actually have nothing left. So you either go too far and you snap back the other way, or you just start pirouetting. You know, you're sort of gone. So
not to mention
So just the way Liam frames the problem, even in the wind piece, it's always like, if you do this, you're gone, and if you do this, you're gone. So you're gone. And that's a difficult mindset to work with. It's like, yeah, but like, how could it be possible? How could you save a slide before it even happened? In Liam's world, that's not even like a thing. It's like, no, the slide happens and then you react to it. And I'm there giving him a totally different look, which is like, hang on, you've got to have enough knowledge and experience and anticipation and intuition that you know that slide was coming before it happened. That's the level you got to get to. And I'd love for Liam to get to that level. Let's hope he does. Okay. What do I want to show you guys next? I know I spent a lot of time on Liam, but there is, I'm doing my best. I'm moving through, guys, but yeah, there was a lot in there for me and I learned a lot about his mindset and I hope his approach as well to the racing. And I hope I at least gave a couple of things to think about. I might not always be right, but again, that back and forth is what it's all about, right? That grinding. Yeah. Raveborg, how can you anticipate when you aren't expecting the slide right there? Well, that's your problem. If you're not expecting a tennis player to serve, like how are you going to anticipate? Like you need anticipation involves that whole expectation piece. Like it's based on probabilities, right? Like I'll give you an example. Let's say it's wet, full rain, and you're on the full wets, and you go down Mexico turn 1 and you smash the brake pedal and turn the steering wheel. I would expect that you would lock up both front tires. That's just what will happen. Like that's just an example of, and he spoke about it, the guy on the pod, I still don't know his name. That's just an example of anticipation. So you know not to do that. You know to keep the steering wheel straight and introduce the car to the brake pedal and pull back with the gears because you know, like you've got a level of experience and understanding. So like your question, how can you anticipate when you aren't expecting? It's like, well, the whole point of anticipation is that you are expecting. That's what it means, right? Have a think about that. I'm not sure if I gave you the right look, but yeah, have a think about that. Okay, let's talk about Lewis Hamilton super quickly. I don't think he's happy with this car, the 2026 car. And again, guys, just reading the words and the body language, I'm going to actually ask it to you guys. I'm going to get you guys to watch this clip. And then I'm going to, you guys in the audience, in the chat, which I'm watching now, I want you guys to come and chip in and like I read this little clip that Lewis is not happy with his car, but I want you guys to tell me, what do you see in this clip where you also think that Lewis is not happy with this car? I'll just take this quick question because it looks like a good one. It's a long one. Angry Chicken 3890 at lower lap time. Are these drivers more willing to learn? Are these drivers more willing to learn? Even the ones who usually don't learn, since the new regs force them to face, it's a difference in extent and not kinds, you know. Yes, they will be forced to learn, but to what extent? Are they doing the max curiosity, or are they just doing the normal stuff? Like to what extent are they curious and trying out there? Yeah, I don't think Lewis is happy. Listen, have a listen to this clip and tell me if you see anything that would give you an indication that he's not happy with the car.
It's been a good week. We've discovered quite a lot about the car, a lot about the tires. It's quite an unusual track where, you know, we actually race here in the evening, but for some reason they have us testing during the day. So the morning is always terrible. It's super windy, crazy hot track conditions, which is not really comparable to something that we end up experiencing here. But still lots of learnings, understanding the tires and how they operate the window, and then trying to understand just how to get this car in the right window.
Come on, guys. For me, that was straightforward. Tell me how you can tell he's not happy with this car. Write it in the chat. Go. There's a delay of about 30 seconds between me talking and the chat, so as soon as it comes in, maybe I'll check my phone and see if I can. Some of you guys are doing it a bit earlier. Lulu Lamani, no one loves these cars. Lewis is sugarcoating. Oh, it is coming through quicker. He mostly seems neutral. Tuner, okay. Yeah, it is coming through nice and quick. I think you're overreacting. Happier than 25. I think he was just pretty tired when he filmed that video. Okay. He knows possibly. Hi, Martin, have you seen the Ulsters? Or come back to that. Lewis looks different this year. Come on, guys, please address the question. What in that video do you see or hear where Lewis is frustrated with this car? Talking about the setup window. Come on, guys. Surely someone got it. He's pissed with the FIA. What are these comments? Come on, audience. Don't let me down here. What are you guys saying? You should try to do a podcast with Liam or any other F1 driver and talk about how they drive or what they can prove. It would be interesting. Yeah, I'd be open for that. I'd be up for that. I agree, most other drivers. Okay. Firstly, it's not a normal interview. Repeat it once again. All right, let me repeat it once again. He doesn't like the wind. Yeah, no one got it. Okay. Let's go back a few steps. Have a listen to this video. Pay close attention. He blames himself as one of them. Have a listen to this video. Tell me how you know he's frustrated with this Ferrari.
It's been a good week. We've discovered quite a lot about the car, a lot about the tires. It's quite an unusual track where, you know, we actually race here in the evening, but for some reason they have us testing during the day. So the morning is always terrible. It's super windy, crazy hot track conditions, which is not really comparable to something that we end up experiencing here. But still lots of learnings, understanding the tires and how they operate the window, and then trying to understand just how to get this car in the right window.
I don't think anyone got it. Come on, guys. I'm going to give a few more seconds because surely someone I'm going to give another 20 seconds. Otherwise, I'm going to tell you. And I'm pretty confident on this, guys. I'm pretty confident on this. Okay. Luke, man, lower lap time. I think he's not happy with how the Ferrari handles the test. Are you implying he's touching his neck? No. He's speaking of trying to find a window or balance. No. He doesn't address the car itself. Yes, he does. Is he bringing up excuses? No. Excuses? No. Not in the window? No. He's bang. There it is. This guy here. Oscar Beckerlau 44. He shakes his head. Right at the end, he goes, and just try to how to get this car in the window. Like, guys, it's out like it's. Come on, guys. Low IQ chat. Yeah, this is funny. The only thing I can tell is he's slightly exhausted. Yeah, it was after testing. At the end, he's like, and just how to get this car in the window. Like this, if he could swear, right? This effing car, right? That's how I read it. It's right at the end. So I'm going to play it to you full speed, and then I'll show you the slow motion, but he shakes his head. He's like, this car is like that. Yeah.
It's been a good week. It's something that we end up experiencing
right at the end.
But still lots of learnings, understanding the tires and how they operate the window, and then trying to understand just how to get this car in the right window.
You see his eyes as well. He's like, this car, you know what I mean? I'll show you a slow-mo of it. Now, there you go. There's a big head shake there, and Lewis is like, mate, this car shaking his head, good. I think you're overreaching a little bit. Lewis seems to be similarly frustrated with most of the cars he drives. Well, yeah, you're talking about the Ferraris. I mean, yeah, all of chat is about it. Yeah. No, you guys, I mean, it wasn't easy. The reason it wasn't easy was because it was right at the end of the clip. It was blah, 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 the wind, the tires, this and that, and at the end, and just trying to get this car in the window. And it's like, he's not comfortable. That's the opposite of like George, Kimi, the drivability is better than what we expected. And George saying, I can't wait for this season to start. And they're not saying, mate, this car, like, do you know what I mean? Like, we go back and watch it, and it should be like blaringly obvious that he's not comfortable with the Ferrari. And we've seen it, guys. This is nothing new. You want me to show you? The day 3 video, I'd be saying the same thing. This car's a piece of S. Have a look at this. How many times he corrects out of the final corner. Final corner, 1 oversteer moment, 2 oversteer moments, 3 oversteer moments. The thing won't put power to the floor. So I get it. I understand the frustration. I've got correlation here in what I see with the car and what I see with what Lewis is saying. So does Charles Leclerc. He's not immune to this either. Look at this oversteer through turn 6. Understeer in 11, waiting for the front of the car. Traction on the exit of 12, I think. And then the same 3 slides out of 14. 1, 2, 1 more, 3. So I get it, guys. Like, I get it. I can see through Lewis that this is not, they're not all there with this car. And that's a shame at this stage. But there's some stuff on the way for Ferrari for this test. Let's have a look. I'll see if I can bring that up quickly at this point, because I had it. There's some upgrades on the way. Give me a sec. This one here. Lewis Hamilton boosted as Ferrari set for massive upgrades ahead of the next F1 test. All right. What are the upgrades? Are they good? Lewis Hamilton doesn't seem like he's been able to get used to getting good news from Ferrari since he joined them last year. Instead, the vibe has been more mother during civil war who started out with 9 sons. I don't understand what this is. And whoever wrote this article. The first showings from Bahrain appear to indicate that Ferrari have put together a solid package, and they're not done yet. Technical expert Sam Collins reporting has an awful lot more upgrades coming. Guys, can you see this? Let me just zoom in. If you can see that. Okay. Yeah, keep an eye on Ferrari. All right, whatever. There's some upgrades coming. Let's see how they go. I've just got to move on fairly quickly. So yeah, like, I hope it works out. But anyway, what we're seeing with the onboard, what we're hearing from Lewis, mate, it's not looking good. Okay. We need to talk about Oscar Piastri as well. This is a fairly big topic at this point in the live stream. We're up to 3D, guys. I'm going to try to continue to move forward, because I know we can have a back and forth. Look at you guys, technical expert Sam Collins. Yeah. All right, so let me just move on. Oscar Piastri. He's made a few changes to his personal team. I'm in 3D in the video description now. Oscar's 2026 mindset coach Emma Murray and F2 race engineer Pedro Matos. I think he's Portuguese. I think this is a good move from Oscar on both fronts. Obviously, you guys know my philosophy. There's 4 areas of driver preparation: physical, mental, technical, and tactical. My whole philosophy is like, you need a guy for each, or a girl for each, or someone that could potentially like cover those 4 areas. For example, if Lewis has Angela and that's his physical, mental, like, tick, that's fine. But who's the technical, tactical? You got to have that covered as well. And so if Oscar's not hired, because I think he's been working with Emma for a little while, but if he's brought someone in on the mindset side, tick, and he's brought in this F2 race engineer, Pedro, for some kind of technical or tactical support. Tick. And then he just needs the physical and whatever. And like I'm a big fan of the drivers having this personal team, which is independent of the race team, because there's enough guys at these race teams. There's thousands of people, engineers, strategy engineers, aerodynamicists, you know, suspension guys, kinematics guys, electronics guys and girls, and floor and steering wheel. And like there's so many strategy and like, you know what I mean? Your aero engineer, strategy engineer, fuel engineer, chemical engineer. There are heaps of those guys. The team's full of them. Like you've got to separate yourself from them. And like I said before, it's the conversations that you have away from the racetrack, away from these guys, after hours. These are the guys that are going to protect you and bring you out of trouble. So in this case, it's Emma Murray and Pedro Matos who are going to help Oscar Piastri this year. So I think it's good for that. Like you're ticking the 4 boxes. So if you've got a complete, how many drivers on the grid have a complete team in this area? Complete team. Like technical is covered. I've got a personal technical coach, a personal tactical coach, a personal physical coach, and a personal mental mindset coach. How many drivers can tick all 4 boxes? I'd argue that most of them have probably got a few holes in a few places. It's probably on the technical and tactical side. A race engineer does not count. If you've got a race engineer, that is not a technical driver coach. That's your race engineer. His job is to protect you and look after you and communicate to you during the race. His job is not to tell you like the line in turn 14 in Hungary. Like, so personal team outside of the team. So again, I think it's a good move from Oscar. Let's address them independently. So we'll start with maybe the mindset one. So Emma Murray. So listen, you had the whole McLaren situation last year. You had the whole pressure cooker situation, and it was like the McLaren rules, the papaya rules. Were they favoring Lando? Were they giving Oscar the short straw? How do you deal with that? You know, what happened there? And then you've got the technical side, which is like, was it the low grip braking? And Oscar's mentioned these things: low grip braking in the wet, for example, in Mexico, high altitude. Like these struggles with being an active braker. And so there were those two concurrent, I think it's both, to be honest, those two concurrent issues. Personally, I really like Oscar's mindset. I was talking to Max Flashheart in this channel before the live stream about Oscar's mentality and mindset. And I really like it. I would have, personally, if I was exposed to that whole McLaren situation in 2025, mate, I would have flipped shit. I would have done a Fernando Alonso, because I just wouldn't have been... Like, I feel like Oscar was so professional in that situation. He handled everything exceptionally well. He was stoic. He was level-headed. He was polite still. He was professional. Like, he's always saw the positives. Like, that 25 season was a build from 2024. And, like, honestly, it was difficult for me to fault him on the mindset side. The only thing I would say is that in Baku, what I saw was a lot of pressure. Championship pressure, potentially team pressure as well. And I just feel like when the pressure got to the crunch, that's where those uncharacteristic Oscar mistakes came out. For example, jumping the start and sticking it in the wall on lap 1 is very un-Oscar Piastri-like. And so that's the only mark on the mindset side where I'm like, okay, if we're looking at where it was material consequence on the mindset side, it was Baku. For the rest of it, I think he managed it really well, and I would chalk most of it up to the technical side. Then there's another conversation and another huge discussion which says, well, how much of your technical driving technique is how you feel in your mindset? That's a tricky conversation. I'll get onto a conversation I had with an Aussie racing driver on Instagram today, DM. But I feel like, again, with the whole Liam Lawson thing, it's not about being subconscious and instinctive. It's about driving with purpose, like doing certain things to achieve certain outcomes. Like Max aggressively downshifting to pull this car up and supplement and complement for the lack of braking grip is driving with purpose. That's not a subconscious presence thing. That's like I'm trying to do stuff out here. So I feel like a lot of it is on the technical side. Like if I was to look at Oscar's 2025, I'm like, there's a small portion of points on the mindset side under pressure, but there is a larger portion of points, a bigger piece on the technical side as it relates to low grip, braking, sequencing of corners, wet, conversion, the pole thing in Hungary, the strategy in Hungary. There's more on the technical and tactical side than there is on the mindset side. That's all. But there is still a little bit on the mindset as well, just in the pressure. Like I said, the way he handled it was really well for me. Monza, he handled it really well. Singapore, he handled it quite well as well. Like I said, I would have thrown my toys out of the pram, and so would have like a Fernando Alonso as well. Let me show you guys an example of what I feel like is a great mindset from Oscar to reiterate this point.
2025 for you, Oscar. So many incredible highs and the lows, which is racing. How have you dealt with the way that it played out last year?
I mean, just trying to look at it like that, you know, acknowledge the good moments and the bad. You know, I think every single season is going to have its ups and downs, and that was certainly the case last year. But I think compared to the first couple of years of my F1 career, there was significantly more ups, which was great, and plenty of lessons learned in some of those tougher moments and tougher weekends. So I think for me, you know, just acknowledging the year as a whole, I think it was a really good step forward from 2024. With still some things to work on, some things to improve. So that's how I try and look at it. And again, you always learn more in the tougher moments or the bad moments. And yeah, I think I definitely learned some lessons and things I can take forward into 2026.
I mean, can you ask for a better mindset? There's a lot of things I learned, I'm grateful for. I've moved forward from 2024 to 25. Like the whole thing is positive and reassuring and establishes his position, and he's calm and stoic and clear on his objectives. Like, what's not to like about that? I reckon this Emma chick has a pretty easy job, to be honest, moving forward with Oscar. The only thing I see, like, it's the pressure piece. And that's where I feel like if you can resolve for Baku, that's the only place I saw points on the mindset side and the pressures, which is performing under pressure. I have my own personal philosophy for performing under pressure, where it's just like you go back to basics in those situations. You don't try to do, like if you're under pressure in a Q3 lap, you just execute cleanly. It might not be the world's best lap or whatever, but you're there. Like you don't mess it up, kind of thing. And so with like the Baku start, if he was feeling that particular pressure, it would be like, again, just be present and go through the motions. When the lights come on, pull your clutch, select first gear, revs, match your revs, your checklist. When the lights go out, go, shift, find your space, find your grip. Like if you just look at it like that and pull things back to basics in those pressure situations, it's not about performing under pressure. It's about not like, don't stick it in the wall and jump the start. That's worse, right? So those situations only come from time to time, and you've got to identify quickly, I'm feeling the pressure here, because you know your heart rate's up, it's a big moment or whatever. You know you're not as relaxed as usual. So that's the first key, is identifying it. And the second is go back to basics. Just do the basics right and you'll be okay. That's my personal approach on it. I'm not a mindset performance coach. I touch on mentality a little bit, but it's not my bread and butter. So I'll be interested to see how this relationship works out. Now, like I said before, I've always thought that the lowest hanging fruit for Oscar is on the technical side. And I think Lando over the course of the season worked out the front end of the McLaren a little bit better. You guys saw the China clip at the start of this live stream, or when Liam was talking. The front end with Lando and the McLaren and the rate of input, the steering, the aero balance on the nose. When he got on top of that, I always thought that Lando had a higher ceiling than Oscar. Oscar's best versus Lando's best is not enough. It's lap time that Oscar needs, in my opinion. It's got to be the lap time is your gun or sword. Like that's what you go into battle with. And then your mindset and your physical and your tactical, it supports your lap time. Like you need the lap time. It's almost like an income versus expenses kind of situation. Baku was an expense. And yeah, we need to cut our expenses. But income, there's no substitute for income. Lap time is income. Lap time is top line. You can only turn the lights off in your house so much, but it's not going to get you to like financial freedom. You need more income to be able to do that. And so like with Oscar, I'll be like, but you need more lap time. You need to be able to fight and compete at the front more often. You can't have your Mexicos, your Austins, your Vegases, your wet races. Like what do we do with all of these situations? Like the low grip in Mexico, Austin, Vegas, the braking zones and how he frames all of that, getting to the apex as soon as possible, being an active braker. The wet races in Australia, Brazil, and Silverstone, Lando won all of those. Australia, Brazil sprint, and Silverstone, and Oscar made mistakes in all 3 of those as well. You can't chalk all of that up to the mindset, guys. Then you've got the tight line in Hungary, and then you've got the strategy in Hungary where Oscar did a 2-stop and Lando did a 1-stop. Is that state of mind and mindset? I'd argue no. That falls very firmly in the tactical race tactics. And so that's where I feel like the low-hanging fruit is for Oscar. Lap time, income, top line, baby. Don't worry about the expenses. Focus on the lap time. That would be my advice. I spoke about this with the Red Flags boys. They pitched a few questions and asked me about it. Let's bring it up.
Do we want to start with Oscar? Because that was I think where you were the most helpful to us, is like with the Oscar and Lando piece, because it was kind of like, okay, these guys are in the same car. There's not much between them. How do we differentiate these guys? How do we watch for, how do we predict who's going to win? How do we see who's up and who's down in these practices and qualifying? Like, what went wrong in the like they have different mentalities. Like, how did you parse these guys throughout the season, and how could you sort of create a glide path into like who was going to win, who was going to lose, their driving styles, their mentalities? Like, how are you parsing that throughout the season?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So like with Oscar, his favorite track is Spa, as is Max's. That kind of automatically tells you like these guys love when the downforce is significant. I say like significant because it's like an airplane, right? At 0 kilometers, the car's not generating any downforce. And at 5 and 10 kilometers, there's like a tiny bit. And at 90 kilometers, there's a little bit more. But up in the 280s, 290s, when downforce is like it ramps up very quickly and the car's behavior changes quite a lot. So when Oscar dropped into Belgium and Spa, he was rapid straight away and he smashed it. But then you put him on something a little bit slipperier and he's not a fan. But I found it hard to characterize the two drivers as well throughout the season. The only thing I'll say is Lando struggled with the feeling of the McLaren since he jumped in it, since Bahrain testing. When I was watching it last year, he was not at one with that car. Oscar was kind of like, it's all right, like no problems, not like, out of the box like lights quick, but no obvious troubles to report. So I think that's the whole story that evolved, is Lando wasn't happy with it, couldn't become one with the car. And I think everyone says like, what happened to Oscar later in the season? And it's like, well, nothing happened to Oscar. It's how Lando worked it out and got more comfortable and started swinging properly. And then, he could show off his lap time advantage, which I think he's always had over Oscar.
But I think you're kind of also leaving out like the Oscar collapses, right? The Baku's, like Oscar also started making mistakes out of nowhere. Now, where did that, because I think the narrative of Oscar was that, maybe the ceiling wasn't as high, but he nailed his starts. He got the overtakes done when he needed to get the overtakes done. And like the ceiling might not have been as high as with Lando, but the floor was definitely higher. And then all of a sudden the bottom fell out of the tub in a couple of these races. And I know you like to look at mentality.
He Marty Supremed and fell through the fucking, I don't know.
You fell through the bottom
floorboard.
Yeah, exactly. So what do you think happened there? And I want to and I want to drill into the mentality. And I also want, well, let me hear you answer that, because I have a follow up for that. I know I'm throwing a lot at you.
So I'll just stop there, because this is an interesting thought and kind of approach, which is like, you see Oscar's season degrading. Is it mindset and pressure and McLaren, or is it on the technical side? And like, for me, it's it is a combination of both. But I chalk Baku, and Matt mentioned Baku here, I chalk that one up to the pressure, the mindset side. Like, that was under pressure. And then, but Mexico quali, Mexico weekend, Austin weekend, Brazil sprint race when he put it in the wall, missing out on pole in Hungary, the strategy in Hungary. Where are these points? These points I can't chalk up to the mindset side. I just can't. Like, I stick them very firmly on the technical side. And Oscar's spoken about that. We'll get onto that in a minute as well. But I can understand what Matt's saying here, and it could be a factor as well. Like, he's not feeling his best, and therefore he's not performing his best. That's a separate argument. And I mean, if that's what's happening to you, you're doomed, because how you feel has an impact on your performance. You're screwed already. You can't have that. If you're going for a world championship, it doesn't matter how you feel. You've got to execute. That's part of it. And so that's a big piece and a big conversation. Like, let's say Oscar goes missing and qualifies P6 in Mexico. Is that due to mindset? Not feeling good, not comfortable in the team? Or is that due to the braking technique and the downshifting and the line and what he's trying to do in the corner and the way he rides the curbs and frames the corners and being an active braker? And like, it's a massive conversation, and both answers are acceptable. But sometimes I feel like as well, to some extent, you can't chalk this up to the mindset and comfort piece. Like, you've got to be comfortable in the car and the technical side. But it's a great point that Matt raises here. And like I said at the start of this live stream, sometimes these live streams are for me just as much as for you, because this is something that I'm trying to work out.
Okay, so that's different. You're talking about, so what I was talking about before was the technical side, like Oscar's lap time, how comfortable he was with the car, Lando, how he resolved for it, got more comfortable, found lap time. Oscar in Baku was on the mental, like falls under the mental side. So I always talk about the 4 areas of driver preparation: physical, mental, technical, and tactical. That goes under the mental. Underneath the mental is concentration, attention span, capacity, awareness, emotions, frustration, pressure, Oscar, pressure, and more. So I've reeled off a couple of things there. But that was championship pressure. Yeah, to jump the start and put it in the wall, like that's someone that's under pressure.
Interesting that I put that under pressure. And then I was having a read of her website. What's her name? Emma. I'll bring it up. Because this is who's going to be working with a little bit more closely. Can you guys see that? So this is her. And she's worked with drivers before, AFL stuff, and a bit of corporate stuff as well. This part, especially when under pressure. I read that and I was like, hang on a minute, I was onto something here with Baku. This is a key part for me, and I really hope Emma doubles down on this, because that's the only place I see points. Have a read of this. Traditionally, enterprises have focused on competency training, which builds valuable skills to facilitate performance. However, high-performance mindfulness focuses on building the mindset that allows people to access and apply their technical skills more effectively, especially when under pressure. Bang. That's exactly what Oscar needs in a Baku situation. When you're fighting for a world championship and the team's not with you and whatever, and you had a bad weekend and you're under pressure, that's the key word here. And I reeled off a couple because there is a couple. There's concentration, attention span, pressure, capacity, awareness, frustrations, emotions. I don't really think Oscar suffers from those too much. The one here, this is the one where my lens is on this word, under pressure. And it's good that Emma covers that. However, that being said, I'm still kind of, you need more top line, you need more weapons, but you need to bring, you know what I mean? A Formula One fight, you got to bring more lap time. That's where I'm also like, you need both, and to not discount that one. What's interesting is, if you listen to Oscar last year, some of the pods he did, all of the struggles, he never mentioned mindset. He's never like, if I could just get my mind right and harness this, I've got heaps of lap time, but it's just kind of infrequent. No, it was all on the technical side. Whereas when you listen to him this year in 2026, he starts talking about other things other than driving and racing. And so that might be a shift from Oscar. Maybe he's seen what it could do for Lando or Nico Rosberg or Novak Djokovic. And for these guys, the mindset piece has been huge, like game-changing for them. But I've always thought Lando has lap time, but he didn't have this one. And Rosberg went all out. He, again, we're going to talk about the 4 coaches. He had all of them, probably had like 10. And then you've got Novak Djokovic, who really talks about this mindset stuff and is like, yeah. And Novak is not someone to muck around with. Novak definitely knows what's going on. So yeah, there's a change there between Oscar. He was talking technically, and now he's talking about other things other than driving. Let's have a listen to 25, and then we can compare to 26.
Pressure you're putting, but you iterate towards, well, I didn't lock up the lap before. Can I push it a bit harder? Now I feel like I'm on the edge of locking up, or, just from a pure stopping power kind of thing. You know how much you're getting thrown around in the car when you stop. So it's something that kind of comes naturally, but it's different for different people. And, some people are very, very active on the brake pedal.
What do you mean by that?
They're very quick in kind of adjusting their brake pressure through a stop. And one thing is,
are you active?
I would say no.
Okay.
I think one, there's kind of a few ways of doing things. Obviously judging, how to get to the apex in the best way possible, the fastest way possible when you're going from 300 to 80, for example. Trying to judge that distance is not very straightforward, and some people are better at kind of not picking the perfect braking point, but then being able to manage all the way to the apex. Some people are better at picking the right braking point and then kind of maximizing what you have to get to the apex. And both of those kind of approaches have strengths and weaknesses, I would say. I think for me, normally my driving style is pretty smooth with a lot of things, and braking is generally one of those things. But there are strengths and weaknesses with that. Sometimes that works massively in my favor, because if I get to the right place, or when I get to the right place, then I can be incredibly consistent. But if you need to change things up a little bit, or things are a bit unpredictable, then I have to work a bit harder to try and adjust to that, let's say. So it's all quite interesting how it works.
I mentioned simulators. Are you a king of the simulator? Do you do as much as some of the other drivers?
Anything you can learn or gain before you've even hit the track is going to help you when you've only got one practice session. So that's kind of the first way I look at it. The other way is simply to have fun. So, when I'm on my simulator at home, I'm incredibly rarely actually trying to learn something new or improve myself. I'm just driving it because I'm competitive, and I like to try and beat other people on their couches at home.
Do you compete against random people?
Yeah.
So this is where I think the gold is for Oscar. Understanding this so you don't go missing in your Mexicos, your Vegases, your Austins, your wet races, and the tactical side, your Hungary and your Spa, questionable strategies as well. Look at the points that's there, right? Huge. And so this is where I think the gold is. Now have a listen. That was 2025, focusing on the technical. Have a listen to 2026. He mentions things other than driving. Have a listen.
Spoken about the tools in the toolbox for 2026. Have you figured out, or do you know what kind of tools you'll need to take that next step and become that world champ?
Still figuring out, I think. In terms of the lessons from last year, yes, I think, they're not necessarily things that are always in the car, so to speak, or, they're not necessarily attached to driving.
Not things in the car, so to speak, or necessarily attached to driving.
Specifically, they're just a bit broader in terms of the topics, but in terms of the driving and figuring out the tools I need to drive as fast as I can, that's what testing is so critical for this year. More off track and just how I approach the weekends, how I approach the season. There's definitely some lessons from last year that I can take into 2026.
That's interesting. And yeah, I can't help but feel like Pedro is the guy. I feel like between Pedro and Emma, 70% of it is going to sit on Pedro's side. We need more lap time. If you're an Oscar fan, that's what you need, is more lap time. Personally, with these cars, they move around a lot. There's not a lot of downforce. I don't think it's Oscar's natural habitat, guys. I just think he'll be a little fraction behind Lando again, because again, it's just going to land on the technical side. That's my gut feeling at this point. And so that pivot between 2025, talking about the active braking and low grip and nutting that out and getting through that, I think there's more gold over there. And now it's like, oh, things outside of the car and my approach. And it's important. Yes, it's important. I don't want you to misunderstand me. But how much gold is down over in that direction? Let's have a listen to the red flags, boys, as well. Did I capture that one? Yeah. This one here. I think they've also got a similar read on Oscar for this year, because I'm not sure that he's super happy or comfortable as at February 2026.
It's not that far apart.
Sure, but not even the happy, sad, just like the confident. He just doesn't. He always seems so confident and secure. He always seems so secure.
Yeah.
And what I've been gleaming from the bits that I've seen is like a little bit of a lack of that same type of like Oscar's secure steadfastness. And maybe it's a combination of things. Maybe he's not getting along with these new regs. There's a lot going on, so maybe he's having a little bit of trouble like getting comfortable there. But you can't discount that. At the end of the day, like last season went the way that it went. So that's an interesting kind of.
So yeah, maybe he hasn't necessarily gotten rid of that.
Right.
Hasn't compartmentalized shaken that off. Exactly. They've also said that Charles seems to be getting.
Wow, there you go. So that's another interesting take from these boys. They're so good at reading. Like when I was reading Hamilton before, these guys are like X10 on that. So like when it comes to inferring what's going on, I can see these guys, Brian and Matt, they're basically saying, is there any residual pressure there that Oscar hasn't resolved for, that maybe Emma needs to come in and sort out? Going to be super interesting, guys, but watch this space. I think it's only going to go one of two ways, right? It's going to be either really good for him or it's not going to work out for him. I just think technically with these cars, I don't think they're going to be his natural habitat. That's all. But what they're suggesting there is there's some residual stuff and it's funny because they're saying that Oscar in the 26 video I just played is saying like it's things outside of the track. There's something going on, man. There's something going on. What do you reckon in the chat as we just wrap up on Oscar Piastri? What do you guys reckon is going on here? Something to do with the mindset and approach outside of the track, outside of the car. Hit me. JWM Murphysis. Oscar is alluding to the fact that things were going away from him as the team were backing the other guy. Hungary was proof of that, letting the slower driver having the better strategy. Oof. I answered this question on the red flags as well. I should link it in the description. But the race strategy, there's a massive driver component to that. And I never want to let that go. Oscar could have also... Mate, it comes back to who's the tactical coach. If you can give me a name, not race engineer, not Will or Tom or Jerry or whoever's there. Give me a name for the tactical driver coach of Oscar Piastri. And if it's no one, that's what they like, and you make a mistake on the tactical side, like I chalk it up to tactics, right? So I don't chalk that to favoritism. They gave him the better strategy. Oscar could have one-stopped. It wasn't like they didn't do it. Team Oscar Piastri didn't do it. That's all. Guys, check out the Red Flags pod. I'll try to drop a link. And yeah, what are you guys saying here? I reckon Mark Webber contract terms backfired and didn't hold up in 2025, hence his demotion. What do you mean by that, Max? Can you elaborate a little bit more? Give me a little bit more color. What contract terms? How did they backfire? Potentially Mark was doing some, he's Oscar's friend, potentially was giving him a little bit of mindset and maybe even technical on how to drive the car, or who knows. But I feel like Mark should be the management, like career management, like negotiations, fighting for Oscar, getting him what he wants. Of course, when that team stuff happens, Mark should be heavily involved, saying, hang on, what's going on here? Protecting his driver. And I think that should all, Mark's the perfect person for that, isn't it? Let me guys know in the chat, how are you reading this situation? I'm going to have a quick drink and then we're going to get on to Antonelli's fastest lap in test 2. Okay. What are you guys saying here? I saw a podcast where he said that due to, I'm just reading it here because it's quicker on my phone. I saw a podcast where he said that due to what happened in Monza, it affected his mind and he only got over it in the last few races. Yeah, okay. They have physical coaches, tactical, what tactics? Team have 100 people on a supercomputer. They do, but you need a tactical coach. Give me a sec. Max Flashheart, he promised Oscar to be second driver. Everything was equal support, papaya rules. But then the out of agreement pit stop thing happened. Yeah. Hi, Martin. Have you seen Yelstina's latest YouTube? Hang on, man. Stay on topic. What are you talking about? Give me a sec. That's for at the end. John, race tactics you learned through, not from some dude who never raced. Okay. Interesting. What about Austin turn 1? Okay. All right. Interesting. You guys aren't that talkative on that topic. Let's move on to Antonelli's fast lap. There's a couple of small insights that I want to share with you, which I'm curious about. Ask me about that in the Q&A at the end. Okay, this is Antonelli's fast lap. I can't play it to you. I'll get done for copyright. I'll probably get done for copyright for something I've shared with you guys already. But interesting that I pulled out is that Antonelli is on the manual DRS active aero closure in turn 1 and turn 4. And he's not on the manual active closure in turn 11 and turn 14. I did a bit of digging in the telemetry to work out why is this? Why is he manually pushing the button in turn 1 for closure, and you can see it here, the thumb on this yellow button in turn 4, but then there's some other corners he's not on that yellow button. That's what I'm looking at and why that is. Now I'm thinking maybe those are the corners where he's doing the super clipping, keeping his foot flat, he wants manual closure, all good. And maybe these are the corners, turn 11 and turn 14, where he's doing the lift, and that automatically closes the active aero. However, when I looked at the telemetry, I didn't see that, and so I'm not sure why at the moment. Give me a sec. So when we look at the telemetry, I didn't see, like if I come over to those corners, turn 11 here, this is definitely not a lift and coast from Antonelli. I mean, if anything, there's a little bit of brake introduction, like at the same time, bang, off one and on the other. So there's not that. And then you go back to the other corner where he wasn't, this one here, there's no lift and coast either. So there are, all I know at this stage is there are corners where he's manually closing the active aero, and there are other corners where he is not closing the active aero, and I don't see any lift and coast. In fact, it's a lot of super clipping that's going on with these cars and drivers at the moment. You can see that here. When the speed continues to rise and all of a sudden just 325 becomes, 323, 322, 320, and then he's got his button on the active aero 318. It's like, yeah, there's clipping. Look at the clipping that's going on here. Look at this flat speed. He pretty much hovers at 240 the whole way through. A lot of clipping happening. So the other thing I wanted to say was I would find that really annoying. Again, I don't know if you guys have seen my philosophy on the steering wheel setup, but you guys are right. Yeah, 100%. In the chat, you guys are saying like, isn't that annoying? Because the reason being that your left hand is your downshift hand. And so like you got to push this button with your thumb and then come around and pull the downshifts. It's possible, but for me, the ergonomics would be a little bit annoying. So I would push that across to the right-hand side so that I can push and downshift like that. And it's a lot easier to push and upshift than it would be to push that and downshift. I've never liked the Mercedes steering wheel ergonomics, guys. There is a video in this description on my thoughts on the whole Mercedes steering wheel and redesigning it for ergonomic standpoint. And what's interesting is when I said that, I came out and put out this video and I'm like, look, here's why it doesn't work. And it's a long video, so you guys can check it out after this stream and have a look. But I'm like, look, it doesn't work because these rotaries, like it's so difficult to feel a rotary than it is to push a button. So let me give you an example. Let's say that this green one here is engine braking, EB, and you've got to get it from 1 to 6, for example. Do you know how difficult it is to feel like click 1, 2, 3, click, because you're feeling each notch. Like, and you can't, like you can scroll it a little bit, but you might skip 3 or 4. or 2? Like, how do you, like, it's a lot easier to go on the button 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Like, done. So I have like an engine braking increase and an engine braking decrease. And to feel that, it's almost like the bezel on a watch. Like to hear this kind of, can you guys hear that? Like, how do you turn 7 clicks? Like it's not as intuitive as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Like you can do that so much more consistently and reliably. Anyway, I put out that video, and then George Russell has this crash behind Fernando Alonso. Check this out. He's behind Fernando Alonso in the final lap of Melbourne, making an engine braking change. The exact thing that I said was like a painful way of doing it. And what happens is he's looking down here, engine braking 3, engine braking 2. So he's trying to find the engine braking that he wants, looks up, and there's Fernando doing a little brake check thing, braking a little bit earlier or doing a little bit of cheeky stuff to aero wash George. He ends up off the track in the wall. And it's like, I told you, man, like just that would have been so much easier for George to just push the button than to do this whole rotary thing. And like I said, I'm not a big fan of the ergonomics of the Mercedes steering wheel. In fact, I redesigned the whole thing. I didn't show you on this image here, but I've moved a lot of stuff around. Like I've got different philosophies. Like my right hand is my attacking hand, my left hand is my downshifting braking hand, my right hand is my increase anything, and my left hand is my decrease hand. And like things that just make sense for me. That's just how I set it up. But yeah, I feel like that crash, if you go have a look at it and you see EB flash up, these are the details at this level that matter. And so I'm not a massive fan of, firstly, I don't know why one lap is on the manual and one lap is not doing it manually. But secondly, you're on the downshift hand here with this button. I keep an eye out for that throughout the season. There might be the possibility for some kind of weird mistake to happen because he had to pull a downshift but couldn't also close the DR. Keep an eye out for the possibility of that happening. So that's what I wanted to share with you with Kimi Antonelli's lap. Other than that, it looked really good. There was a bit of oversteer moment to return 11, the increasing radius. But generally speaking, the traction and power delivery of the Merc is very good, but in the hands of both the McLaren and the Mercedes. We're moving through nicely and quickly. And now I'm going to jump over to just quickly talk about Aston Martin, guys. Their car does not look great. It's a multitude of different things. There's a double front lock up there, which, you know, on this channel is very significant. It's a lot more significant than a single lockup. It means you totally got no load across the front of the car. So they need to find a way to increase the front downforce on this car. But the problem is when you do that, as I spoke about before, these regs are all about efficiency in straight line because you got a battery which you need a baby, and now there's no grip under braking for Fernando. So there's that. And then in general, just in the high speed, it doesn't look great. Here's turn 5 and 6. Fernando making a complete meal of it. And then the double lockup that we saw before. Yeah, so there's a lot going on. It's not like the car's amazing and it's just the Honda. It's a multifaceted thing. It's the weight of the car. It's the aero philosophy of the car. It's the engine and power. It's the balance. Like there's a lot going on. Hopefully there's some low-hanging fruit that they can just pick at and pull, you know. Hopefully the weight can be resolved quickly or something can be resolved quickly that gets them there. My personal view is that Honda are going to be a bottleneck in the whole situation. Yeah, my personal view is, I don't know. I just don't have much faith in them. They either nail it or they fudge it. And maybe they fudged it. I don't know. I may ask Adrian Newey, like, it might not be great out of the box, but I'm sure eventually it will come. Sure, eventually Adrian will get on top of that. Honda, I guess you could argue eventually they will as well. Fernando, the one thing he doesn't have is time. So let's hope they sort that out quickly. I want to see them competitive. The only insight that I wanted to share with you guys just quickly is the weather is much cooler for tomorrow's test. And the wind is much less as well. Hamilton last time out was complaining it's windy, it's dusty, it's hot. We don't normally run in the daytime. We normally run at the nighttime. It's impossible to say. The car's all over the place. You won't have those excuses this time around. The track's going to be nice and clean, nice and cool, and there's going to be no wind. So let's see how the Ferrari behaves with the new aero upgrade as well. But that'll be the biggest thing to watch out for. Lap times will be much quicker. Cars are going to feel much better. A lot less lockups, a lot more traction, a lot more braking grip. Things are going to be better. They've had a week or two to digest everything, and it's on now. Like, it's going to be proper. That's a big change, guys. We had like 29s and 30s in the peak of the day for test 2. We're now down into like 19, 20, 21, no wind. Like, that's going to make a big difference out there. Oh yeah, I got a viewer question on starts, which I just wanted to answer, and then we'll take a quick break and I'll answer all of your other questions. This was a really good one, which I wanted to share with you guys, which says, for the next live, can you please explain to us the upcoming start procedures and why Ferrari could have an advantage and how? This I'm not sure on, like how Ferrari, if they do have an advantage in the start, the how piece got something to do with the engine, turbo, speed at which it spools, or the compression or clutch, mate, somewhere through there. And is there a way to know which teams have an advantage on race starts before round 1? The only way is by watching them and reading the start. I spoke about this in the last live stream, and it's like you're listening to the revs and you're listening to the clutch release, and then you're watching the rear tire and you're watching the speed at which the car launches. And you're trying to understand, does all that stack? Does that high revs stack for the wheel spin and car movement that he got? Or does that low revs, like, was that enough? Could it do with more slip? Or you're trying to balance all those things, like the way the car moves, the wheel spin at the rear, the sound and the rev note. That's the only way you can read what's going on with the starts. And we can do that exercise right now together. We're going to compare an Audi and we're going to compare, I think it's a Mercedes. My personal view is, in this clip, the Mercedes didn't get as good of a launch as the Audi. I hear a bit of wheel spin. There was higher revs. And if you visually watch the wheel, you'll see it like wheel spin. And if you listen to the Audi, it's like and like the way it comes in is nice. So that's the only way I can tell you guys. Have a listen. Hopefully you can see that Antonelli gets wheel spin and the Audi start is very good. Watch out. Yeah, hopefully you saw that. A lot of wheel spin for not much movement. Let's have a look at the Audi. You hear that? Beautiful start. Hopefully, like, again, with the whole, like, with that Lewis Hamilton video, I'll play it to you guys again, but it's like, for me, it looks obvious that Kimi got the wheel spin and the Audi's start sounded gorgeous. Like, it was beautiful. And so I want to play it to you guys again just one more time so that you guys can see it for a second time and try to understand that's a good start and that one had too much wheel spin. You hear that screeching? Mate, life doesn't get better than that. Like, a start won't get better than that. Whoever that was, I don't even know if it was, I don't even know who it was, but whoever that was, like, this 10 out of 10 start, quality start. All right, guys, let's take a quick 2-minute break. Grab yourself a drink, grab yourself a coffee, go to the bathroom if you have to, post a question in the chat. The next section of this live stream will be just a quick Q&A together. We'll have a discussion on whatever you want. Write question and then write your question for me so it's clear, and I'll try to get to as many as I can, and then we'll wrap up. Alrighty, welcome back. How did we go? First question from Lukeman, channel member, denoted by the helmet icon next to his name. Question, will Martin be at the Melbourne GP? Unfortunately, at this stage, no. Will you be at the Melbourne GP? It's a good question. Unfortunately, at this stage, no. I feel like sometimes F1's a weird sport. It's better digested from home in some cases than standing on the pitch straight, and you're like, what's going on out there? So I feel like it's strange in that sense that it can be better digested and inferred and ingested from home. Secondly, we were close to, my manager and I, we were close to meeting one of the drivers and having a conversation and having a discussion about the possibility of working together. That did not materialize. In that case, I would have gone. Another journalist, it's disingenuous to call him a journalist. He's an ex-F1 driver. Now journalist, wanted to meet up as well in Melbourne, but there's at the moment, no. All right, what do we got? Helps. Okay, question. Oh, by the way, Super Chats is a topic that we need to check. So if anyone does a Super Chat. All right, here we go. Come on, give me a sec. So this one from Chill Verze. Question: how do you think Arvid Lindblad will adapt to the new rules and regs? Look, I don't think he needs to do a big adaptation piece. It's his first year in Formula One. Here's what it is. Drive this. And so I don't think he needs to go through that process of, I'm used to this and driving the F1 car like this. Remember Hamilton in 2007? That was the big piece. Alonso was used to XYZ Formula One car, the old Renault, the old tires, the Michelins, whatever. And Hamilton came in without that preconceived, he came in clean and was able to just drive the car for what it is. So I don't think there's an adaptation piece. I mean, yes, he's going to have to adapt to what he's got, of course. I don't think there's a readaptation that Arvin needs to do, which works in his favor. Same as Hadjar driving for the Red Bull. It's just all so new that it's just so new. Whereas Max and the other drivers, they're going to have that, okay, the 25 car was like this and we solved it like this. Is that going to work now in 26? There's going to be all of that. Whereas I think it's good for Arvid. He can just jump in and crack on and drive the car for what he's got and just play the ball, not play the opponent. So I think that's a positive. And therefore, I say all of that to say I think he'll go well if he applies that mindset and thinking as well, which is drive the car. Just drive the car and don't overcomplicate it. Don't come in with don't have expectations. Expectations are the worst. Come in with no expectations and go for it. CM Punk 4136. Question: how are drivers really supposed to change and improve their driving styles, example take tight lines, when there is basically no downtime for them to practice, make mistakes and learn? This is a fantastic question because you're right, but time is a matter of priorities. If someone ever says to you, I don't have time for that, the translation is, it's not a priority for me right now. So there is always time. Whether or not it's a priority is another question. For Max Verstappen, practicing on the sim is a priority above going to the fashion week with Kim K at the Super Bowl, whatever. You understand? Time is a finite resource and it's a matter of priorities. Whether or not you choose to go skiing in the off season or you choose to jump in and do a few laps in the simulator or visit the factory or whatever, there is time, but it's a question of priorities. And so I understand that the schedules are tight and that there is a lot of stuff that have to be here. They have media here. They're talking to different people and they've got to be here and there. And they're getting pulled in so many different directions. But I think that's what Max has been able to do really well, is just to compartmentalize and just be like, okay, this is going to pay me in terms of lower lap time and this is a waste of time. So what I'm going to do is sack this and spend my time if it directly has an impact on lap time. I think Max does that better than any other driver. And so less is more. I said it before on the channel. I'm like, when you're panning for gold, you take a lump of dirt, rock, whatever, and finding gold is a process of removal. You're moving stuff away that you're not interested in, sand, clay, mud, rocks, until you're left with the gold. And so driving is about that. It's as much as about what you want to discard and get rid of as it is what you want to add in. And so that's a massive piece because a lot of people think that what does Max do that makes him so good? And I'm like, hang on, what is it that he doesn't do that makes him so good? You know, he's not skiing and at the Super Bowl. That's a good start. Like, you're halfway there when you do that. And so, I mean, like I said, I appreciate that there is time constraint, but there is also a list of priorities which can also be rejuggled. And yeah, I mean, knowing what I know now, if I was a Formula One driver, I would be having very quick, brief conversations with people around the world that could potentially help me. For example, let's say this Emma girl or Pedro or me or Windsor or anyone that could potentially help me in any way. Let's say it was Peter Windsor. Peter, how you going? It's Oscar Piastri. Listen, I'm just asking you briefly and quickly, is there anything in my driving or career management or McLaren situation that you think could help me? Yes or no? Peter would be probably give some good advice and good input in that direction. He'll be like, yeah, here's what you need to do. Here's what I reckon. Oscar is free to take or leave that. It can be a 10-minute conversation. Thanks, Peter. Do you know what I mean? Next phone call. Martin, how you doing? What have you seen in my driving? Well, here's what I've seen. This is what you need to focus on. When you do this and see, do you know what I mean? Like, all right, cool. Thanks. It's not that hard. It's a question of priorities, the laziness piece. And so I don't have sympathy for them when they do stuff like that. It's a great question. Thank you. ZH Lu 2099. Question: will the energy deployment difference create unbelievable overtakes? Somehow I doubt it. Because what difference? The difference is post 290 kilometers, you might have access to some battery if you've got any. Other than that, what difference are we referring to? Like the difference in energy at any given point, like will just be on how you manage that in any, like there isn't a difference really. So like you've got to do a little bit more work to harvest a little bit more energy to then be able to attack down a pitch straight post 290 kilometers. It's tough. Like it's not that straightforward. Like you've just got more battery from God, from the sky. And so, yeah, I'm not sure. Like, I'd tinker with your question ever so slightly in your thinking. It's going to be difficult to overtake. There is a super chat, which I've seen on my phone. Where is it? Here we go. I'm all over this now. You see, look. MYR20. What's that? Thanks for the super chat. 0DRS again. Oh, that's the Malaysian. Is it Malaysian? Okay. Safety issues on new regs. Why is it crucial? I hope you are. I'm not sure I understand your question. Safety is crucial because it's the lives of the humans that we care about. I don't understand your question. Safety issues on the new eggs. Why is it crucial? Maybe you're asking what could potentially go wrong with the new regs, in which case it would be maybe the active aero stays open. Maybe you don't speak English as your first language. I'm sorry, I really can't offer you. Maybe you're talking about the starts. To which case I would say, I don't think it'll be an issue. I think what you saw out there in Bahrain was like no one was prepared. They were like just sitting there waiting to do their procedure, and then the lights came on and it was like, we're ready for this. I don't think I'd read too much into that one. I think from a safety point of view, the cars are very safe. And so you don't need to worry if that's your question. I'm terribly sorry if I didn't answer it properly. But thanks for the super chat. Okay, how we going? Okay. Blank squares. Given the rules mention fuel energy flow rate conversion, LHV over energy density measured by FIA, what are the loopholes? Measurement variance, temperature, or fuel batch control? Mate, what do you think I am? A chemical engineer who's read the fuel regs? Come on. Look, it's not fuel flow in terms of volume. It's flow in terms of energy density. So the more energy dense you can make your fuel, the less you have to run. For example, if I've got this fuel, this is all I need for the race because it's so energy dense. But this thing weighs 200 grams. And so I'm starting the race with significantly less weight than you because my fuel is very dense, energy dense. That's the advantage and loophole. Whereas if you have to start with this much fuel because it's not as dense, then you're carrying this weight around for the initial phases. Now, as the race goes on, you're down to this and I'm down to this. And as the race goes on, that advantage is neutralized. However, with the start, like if you've got a nice dense, energy dense fuel, you can start the race with less weight. That's helpful. It just means you've got less weight, like a lighter car to kick off with. Luke Man, okay. Die-4601. Do you think Ferrari has a smaller turbo than others? And that smaller turbo has been designed for compression ratio. The honest answer is I don't know. Sorry. I don't know what size turbo the Ferrari is and how that stacks up with the size of the other guys. I'm sorry, I don't know that one. Sean HU73. Are these starts related to the drivers or setups? Both. You've got to have your tires in the right window, your clutch set up, bite points in the right window, you know, the right amount of throttle dialed in, the right reaction time, the right anticipation, the right steering, whatever it is. And then you've got to have the system configured and set up properly for that. It's both. You've got to nail both. And the engineers can help guide you on that. Like, oh, that release was too sharp, or, you know, you need more revs next time around, or the temperatures were a bit low and whatever. It's both. Driver and machine are going to come together for the perfect launch. By the way, Martin, what about Lewis? What about Lewis's trolling video? Do you think he did that on purpose? Or did he really take that much time to launch? Ah, okay. So you're talking about the Sam Collins one where he was like, Ferrari have this, which means their launches are super quick. And then Lewis was on the revs for like 2 minutes. Is there another Ferrari car that we can back to back with, like the Haas? How does that launch? Because that would be, if you want to work out whether or not Lewis was trolling, find the Haas launch and double check and verify if they're able to launch quicker than what Lewis did. I wouldn't put it past Lewis for a cheeky troll. Definitely. He's cheeky like that. Tactically, he's very good, very smart. And so it wouldn't surprise me if he did that on purpose to be like, we got nothing to hide here. We take just as long. You know what I mean? That's possible. I would chalk that up to Lewis's tactics. It's possible, but I'm not sure. I don't know. Just try to find a Haas start or a Leclerc start. Maybe not Leclerc, but Leclerc's in the same team, so they might have the same instruction. Even the Haas could have the same instruction. Check. You got to check around. Unfortunately, I don't have one handy. It's possible though that if I read Lewis's personality and the stuff he's done in the past, I wouldn't put it past Lewis to do something like that. Gil Verze question, which tracks will suit these new cars and which tracks won't suit them? If you talk, like, it's tricky because there's a chassis component and an engine component. These small, nimble chassis are going to love, for example, Monaco much more, or Singapore. And they're really quick in a straight line with the less downforce and more power. But like a track like Monza, they're going to run out of battery. And so like it might not suit them so much. Also, they're not going to be great in the high speed. Like Silverstone, they'll be moving around a lot and they'll run out of battery. So I'd say they're more nimble, they're more agile, they're better in direction change, they're better over curbs, they're better over bumps, they're softer. Like they're less stiff and less like mercurial compared to the 25 ones. So I'd go with tighter tracks, twisty tracks, direction change in slow speed, they'll be better. And they'll run out of juice and battery on long straights, unfortunately. They're probably not as stable through a high speed, like through a Copse, for example, or a Stowe, or a Pouon. They're not going to be as good through there. Yeah, in 25, some of those guys were taking those corners flat. So how can you beat that? They're going to struggle. Okay. Nick Hillam, 8065. Could you comment on the effect of marbles on tyre performance when a driver tries to defend on the inside? I've heard drivers talk about it when they try to defend repeatedly on the inside. Yeah, really good question. It's definitely a factor. However, I'd argue that the inside is more valuable than the offset of the marbles. Have a look at like Piastri's pass on Leclerc in 2024 Baku. 2024 Baku, Oscar sends it from the like straight up the inside, turn 1 on Leclerc, in all of the dirt and the marbles, but he's got the inside crucially, and pulls it up. And so, like, yes, it's a factor, but it shouldn't prevent you or scare you from going for it. Very rarely would you see a driver like on the marbles and then off when overtaking, unless you're really, really like off. Generally as well, the rubber gets thrown in the direction of the G. So if you brake and turn left, all of the rubber down there at turn 1 Baku is going to be on the outside right. So if you're sending it on the inside, you might be a little bit better. It's kind of the only thing I can lean. So let me clean up some of this. You see this? So if we draw like Baku turn 1, like a 90-degree corner, and there's a wall here, and there's an entry curve here, and you're going that way. So generally, yeah, the bit of rubber will fly off here, but when you brake and turn in, a lot of the rubber is going to be here. A lot of it will be out there because of the G throwing it that way. And so, yes, there'll be some stuff on the inside, but Oscar was able to make a clean move here. If it's not an issue in a situation like Baku turn 1, forget about it. It's not a problem. That's your worst case. So I think it should be fine. But it's a good, like, the thinking is right. It's possible. Question, is there no such thing as a stable car? Stable is all about pushing. If you're stable, then you aren't pushing to its full capacity, like being on throttle. Yeah, I understand what you're saying. So if I can translate for the audience, you're essentially saying even the best car, when pushed to its limits, will have its limitations and slides, right? But it gets to a point where it feels so good that you almost can't step it out even if you wanted to, kind of thing. You'd have to be doing negligent driving to kind of step it out. And so I think, yes, there is definitely a thing as a stable car. Like, it's when your expectations match the reality that you get. Every time you do an input, you're predicting. Every time you go down the straight and push the brake pedal, you're making a bet. I bet that if I put this much brake pressure in, then the car will deal with that. And if it doesn't, then, you know, obviously it's considered unstable or whatever. Same goes for turning, traction, whatever. But when you make a bet and the car responds, you're like, all right, I'll make another bet. I'll make a bigger bet. I'll push the brakes even harder. And then it gets to a point where you're like, you're flat on the brake and the car doesn't lock up. And it's like, that's a stable car. Or stable in terms of the mid-corner oversteer balance. Same kind of thing. Like in that Liam example in China turn 1, like a stable car would go through turn 1 and an unstable car would not. That's it. So yeah, I'd say it's possible. Max's car looked very good out there as well. The Red Bull's underrated at the moment. It's a good car. I reckon it's a good car. Keep an eye on that. Yeah, I'd say there is a stable car because it gets to a point where car's too good. Okay. Couple more and then we'll wrap up. Crazy question. Is it possible to brake and keep throttle in and then the arrow to keep charging and disconnect the drive shaft while braking? Maybe at different level. Crazy thoughts. Brake and keep throttle. So the thing is, when you brake, you're generally off throttle. And then the MGUK can take over in that situation. And when you're on throttle, the MGUK can take over in that situation as well. That's called clipping. So I don't think that's going to have an impact on charging. In fact, you're pushing fuel through the engine when you don't need to. The MGUK will charge anyway in the off-throttle event. And so there's no need to keep throwing fuel at the engine when you're off throttle. So to brake and then keep throttle is inefficient, because you'd be charging anyway and you're wearing out brakes and you're throwing fuel at the car, and it's probably not good for stability. But you're saying here to disconnect the drive shaft while braking. You won't do that. I don't think you can. The only way you can disconnect the drive shaft is when the car's in neutral, right? You're testing my knowledge on drive shafts However, provided it's in gear, nothing is disconnected. Maybe at a different level, crazy thoughts. It's an interesting thought. I'd say it's not necessary. You don't need to be on the throttle when you're braking because the battery will charge anyway. So you don't need to worry about it. All right, I'm going to take one more because it's been quite a long live stream. This one's a good one. K Mbappe fan, what is it? T6K. Question. Is it better to smash the gears right away or brake, wait, and then smash the gears? Yeah, it's something I've thought about because I know that that's the difference in like what Max is doing versus what other drivers are doing. Listen, if you brake, let's say in the latter, let's say you brake, wait, and then smash the downshifts. You're not taking advantage of engine braking in that case. Most of the braking is being done by your brake pedal, brakes, and braking capacity. And then you're smashing the downshifts. The speed has come down so you can smash them quickly, but you're not getting as much pullback with the revs. You're not getting as much engine braking. And also it wouldn't charge the MGK as well. And also it wouldn't spin the turbo up as well. So it's not good for the turbo. It's not good for the battery recharge. And it's not good for braking to pull up the car. If you do that, you got to brake earlier. Whereas if you take the max approach, pull back nice and hard with the gears and keep the RPM active, you're leveraging engine braking. You're potentially spooling up the turbo a bit more as well. And you're charging the battery nicely as well. It's a win. It's a win on all three sides. So I'd say the first one, it's better to smash the gears straight away and keep that rev nice and high and pull back with the gears. Okay. Any super chats? Did I miss anything? I know there's a lot of questions I didn't get to, but hopefully we'll get to them another time. There is one here from Blank Squares. Let me find it. Where is it? Mate, lucky we put this in, eh? There it is. Found it. All right. Blank Squares, 35 ZAR. What's that? What's a ZAR? I want to find it now. What currency is ZAR? South African Rand, official currency of South Africa. How much is that in Australian dollars? Just so my Aussie friends know what we're talking about. 35 ZARs. 3 Aussie dollars. Thank you so much, Blank Squares, for that one. Question. How will narrower tyres change the braking stability? More lockups or just different brake migration targets? Immediately when you say braking stability, I want downforce. I'm not that interested in the width of the tyre. Give me load across the front. And that's what I said before, increasing front wing angle. A lot of people think like that's going to give you more rotation in a high speed situation, and it does. But there's so many other knock-on effects. It increases your braking capacity because you got more load across the front. It gives you more drag in a straight line. It doesn't have as much of an impact in the slow speed when the downforce is not significant. It's not that helpful when the active aero is on. There's so many other things you got to think of when you do something like that. So I'm thinking downforce. Give me more downforce, and then that'll improve the braking stability. Narrow tires, I mean, it won't help, but I think if you see braking instability, it's as a result of the load on those tires, the downforce. Because if they had these tires but last year's wings, you're all good. Doesn't matter, you're good. So I know you're asking about the impact of the tires. I'd say it won't help, but it's not as bad as having the less downforce that we have this year. And so with these tires, they're easier to save as well. The car's a little bit more savable. Whereas like Liam said last year, it doesn't matter how quick you react. It's impossible to save last year because with the big tires, they're just big cars, big tires, big slides. It's difficult to save. And so, yeah, if you see lockups and braking instability, it's a function of the grip they got from the downforce. Brake migration targets. Not sure that we need to link tire width to brake migration target because there's so much other stuff going on in what corner, in what downforce condition, in what track, and what temperature, and what like in what how are you using the downshifts. All this plays a part, and so I can't just give you like, it's a multifaceted braking, and braking grip is a multifaceted equation such that I can't just correlate the tire width to the brake migration target. There's more stuff going on. And so this year I feel like, I mean, you put as much migration on as you can live with, I guess, because you want your rotation, you want to charge the MGK, you want to pull back with the gears and bring that, you want to prevent the fronts from locking and shift that migration rearwards. There are multiple reasons for that. So nothing changes from that standpoint, I don't think. Did I miss any super chats? Quick check. Everything looks good. Okay. Thank you guys for coming along to the live stream. Keep an eye out for my videos. If I see something interesting, I will share it with you in the day 1, day 2, day 3 analysis. Keep an eye out for the weather. I think that it'll make for more favorable track conditions. And keep an eye out for the upgrades in the Ferrari. Let's see if Aston Martin have made a few steps forward. Let's see if the drivers change their downshifting technique to match Max's. These are the sort of things I'm looking out for. And I hope you enjoy the next 3 days of testing. I'll see you guys in the next live stream from Melbourne, where we'll preview the first round. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys soon.